Chapter 152. Xiaochen had just advanced to inferior grade martial grandmaster not long ago. He needed to stabilize his cultivation. The surging spiritual energy circulated in his body for a great cycle. Finally, it all flowed into his dantian. It was like a surging flood. The river instantly swelled up. The tiny blue dragon swam freely in the river, occasionally creating splashes. These splashes were the purest essence. With just a thought from Xiaochen, the river immediately surged with a huge wave. A huge amount of essence poured out from his dantian and flowed into the various meridians in his body. The essence permeated his meridians and entered his skin, flesh, and bones, nourishing Xiaochen's strong physical body. When the essence was exhausted, the spiritual energy that he absorbed from the surroundings flowed back into his dantian, repeating this process over and over again. Time passed very quickly while Xiaochen was cultivating. When Xiaochen opened his eyes, the sky was already bright. After stretching his legs, Xiaochen felt refreshed, filled with boundless energy. Knock, knock, knock. There was a series of knocks on the door. Lu Ryua's melodious voice could be heard. "Little disciple, stop sleeping in. It's time to wake up." Just as Lu Ryua was about to continue knocking, the door to Xiaochen's room suddenly opened. Lu Ryua looked at the energetic Xiaochen and said, "You are in good spirits. Let's go. In the future, remember to go to the dueling grounds punctually at this time. If you don't go, you will be punished." Xiaochen nodded and said, "It seems like I have not eaten breakfast yet. It's best not to. Otherwise, your stomach will spoil," Lu Ryua said casually with a smile on her face. "That serious?" Xiaochen had a bad feeling in his heart. He followed Lu Ryua and arrived at a vast dueling ground. This dueling ground was very large. It was completely made of the hard heavenly mountain stone. Just the ceiling alone was 100 meters tall. When standing in the middle, one would feel very small. The area of the dueling ground was very obvious. There were all sorts of equipment. However, there was only Lu Suifeng in the huge dueling ground, practicing his saber alone. It seemed very spacious. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiaochen, he smiled faintly as a greeting. "Elder sister Ryue, do you have any powerful saber techniques to impart to me?" When they arrived at the dueling grounds, Xiaochen felt much more relaxed. He said with a smile on his face. Lu Ryue mocked, "You want to learn a powerful saber technique with your foundation? Not to mention a heaven-ranked saber technique, even if it was an earth-ranked saber technique, you would not be able to learn its essence." This was not the first time Lu Ryue said that Xiaochen's foundation was weak. Xiaochen was not convinced, even though he only learned saber techniques halfway through. However, ever since he started cultivating, he had been diligent and had never slacked off. Why did he always say that his foundation was weak? When Lu Ryue saw Xiaochen's expression, she was not convinced. She smiled, "If you are not convinced, then show me your most powerful saber technique. I guarantee that it will not exceed the strength of a martial grandmaster." Xiaochen also wanted to test Lu Ryue's strength. Back in the returning cloud hall, because of Lu Ryue's sudden attack, he was not convinced in his heart. It could be said that he was waiting for this opportunity. Holding the lunar shadow saber horizontally in front of him, Xiaochen smiled faintly. "In that case, watch carefully. I will only execute the fastest saber technique in the world once. I will definitely convince you." Cassia. A cold light flashed and the lunar shadow saber was instantly drawn from its scabbard. The instant the saber light was drawn, there was a clap of thunder behind Xiaochen. The lunar shadow saber flickered with electricity. Drawing the saber, Xiaochen's aura slowly rose. The saber light was extremely fast as it hacked at Lu Ryue. At such a close distance and making the first move, Xiaochen was absolutely confident that he could force Lu Ryue back. As long as Lu Ryue retreated, the rushing thunder saber technique would instantly unleash a chain of attacks. His aura would slowly rise to the peak. Even if he could not defeat her, she would not dare to underestimate him. Dang! A melodious metallic sound rang out. Xiaochen did not even see how Lu Ryue drew her small saber. He discovered that the small saber in Lu Ryue's hand was even faster. Even though it was launched later, it arrived first and hacked at the lunar shadow saber. A huge force came from the saber. Xiaochen's right hand, which was holding the saber, felt numb. He felt an urge to throw the lunar shadow saber away. The huge force was transmitted into Xiaochen's body. He took 2 steps back before he could stand stably. Lu Ryue's swift saber strike was still in his mind. That was just an ordinary saber strike. It was not like drawing the saber, which was a martial technique. However, its speed was boundlessly fast. However, Xiaochen was still unconvinced. He had not executed the rushing thunder saber technique yet. If he had the opportunity to execute it, Lu Riyue would definitely look at him in a different light. Xiaoqun shouted and took a ferocious step forward. Thunder roared again, and the gushing river in his dantian splashed up. It turned into a strand of vast essence and poured into the saber. Saber lights appeared everywhere as Xiaoqun executed drawing the saber again. However, the result did not change. Lu Riyue did not move from her original position. The small saber in her hand arrived first and easily broke the saber strike. Seeing Xiaoqun flying back, the corner of Lu Riyue's lips curled up. A faint smile appeared on her charming face. This is the fastest saber technique in the world? It is merely so. After being ridiculed by a girl who was only a few years older than him, Xiaoqun became anxious. He executed drawing the saber again, but the result did not change. Xiaoqun moved back again and waved his hand. No way, you cannot block this move of mine. Otherwise, I will not be able to execute the more powerful moves. Lu Riyue burst out in laughter. A rare mischievous expression appeared on her face as she said, "As you wish. Let me experience the fastest saber technique in the world." A gleam flashed in Xiaoqun's eyes. The moment Lu Riyue said that, he immediately executed drawing the saber. Lu Riyue flew back and Xiaoqun quickly executed the arc-light chop. Dang! Xiaoqun's hand was still in the stance of the arc-light chop. However, a cold light flashed and struck the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. This saber strike was fast and accurate. It struck the hilt of the saber. The space between Xiaoqun's fingers and the hilt of the saber did not injure Xiaoqun's fingers at all. Lu Riyue sheathed her saber. Her pretty face was solemn and she emitted a killing intent from her body. The fastest saber technique in the world, I will only use one saber strike. I will show you what is the true drawing the saber. Right after she spoke, Lu Riyue had already drawn the small saber in her hand. The instant the saber left the scabbard, a strong wind appeared out of nowhere. The saber light was extremely resplendent and dazzling. The dazzling saber light caused Xiaoqun's eyes to hurt. He instinctively closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the strong wind had already stopped. Lu Riyue sheathed her saber and stood there motionlessly, as if everything that happened earlier was just an illusion. However, Xiaoqun felt a chill on his neck. He extended his hand to touch it and felt a faint pain. It was unknown when a small wound had appeared on his neck. He could not help but be startled. If this wound was any deeper, he would have died. However, he did not react at all. The resplendent saber light lit up and in the blink of an eye, he was struck. Furthermore, in the instant she drew her saber, Lu Riyue had controlled her strength to the extreme. The so-called withdrawing and releasing as one wished, killing in the blink of an eye, was a description of Lu Riyue's current state. Xiaoqun could not help but find it funny. In the past, he thought that he was already very fast when he drew his saber. Today he was completely convinced. Lu Riyue smiled faintly. Little Yi Qin, do you still dare to doubt Master's strength? Xiaoqun smiled embarrassedly. I don't dare anymore. I will listen to elder sister Riyue in the future. Can you start teaching me now? A beautiful smile appeared on Lu Riyue's face. However, when Xiaoqun saw this, he trembled in fear. There are some training blocks over there. Tie 100 kilograms of metal to me and run 20 laps around the dueling ground. You are not allowed to use essence. If I discover you using essence, I will seal your acupoints and double the punishment. Xiaoqun looked at the huge dueling ground. If he ran one lap around it, it would be at least 1,000 meters. He could not help but feel a headache. This, elder sister Riyue, isn't this a little too much? Lu Riyue smiled faintly. First you tease master. Now you contradict me. Add another 10 laps. Damn. Xiaoqun cursed in his heart. This Lu Riyue looks like a gentle big sister. I did not expect her to be so heartless when she becomes ruthless. When one was under someone else's roof, they had no choice but to lower their head. Xiaoqun helplessly walked to the side of the dueling ground and slowly tied the metal to his body. Then he started to jog. Fortunately, his physical body was not weak, so he did not find it too difficult. Lu Suifeng looked at the jogging Xiaoqun with a smile on his face. He walked to Lu Riyue's side and said, Sis, this rushing thunder saber technique has been used by Xiaoqun to create thunder with every saber strike. It is very imposing and can be said to be pretty good. Why do you still want to deal a blow to him? Lu Riyue revealed a faint smile on her pretty face. This fellow is too arrogant. He should have a lot of combat experience. If you do not deal a blow to him, he will not be convinced by you. Furthermore, his foundations are indeed too weak. He needs to be trained properly. The potential of the rushing thunder saber technique can still be dug out. Lu Suifeng thought of something and said, That's right, sis. What do you think about the matter I told you yesterday? Listening to the sword and communicating with it? Lu Ryue revealed a contemplative expression. Since Yi Chen was recommended by Feng Feishue, and he saved Xiao Yang and Xiao Ming earlier, there should not be any problems with his character. If he wants to learn, there is no harm in teaching him. However, this listening to the sword and communicating with it is too vague. I will temporarily suppress him. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiao Chen's back and said, I feel that Qingyun Peak might have a chance in this year's end-of-year competition. When Lu Ryue heard this, there was a trace of melancholy in her eyes. She said indifferently, all these years I have always wanted to prove myself. However, there has never been a suitable successor for Qingyun Peak. I hope you will not disappoint me this time. Xiao Chen ran 30 laps for 4 hours before he finished. The first few laps were nothing much. After all, he had the strength of his physical body. Even if he did not use his essence, there was no pressure. However, after running for a while, Xiao Chen felt that something was wrong. There was definitely some special material under the dueling ground. He felt that his stamina was being depleted very quickly. Chapter 153. In the end, with every step he took, his bones felt like they were going to fall apart. He breathed like a bull, and every step he took was extremely arduous. There were a few times when Xiao Chen felt like lying down and not running anymore. However, when he looked at the beautiful figure in the middle of the field and saw the expression in her eyes, he could not help but feel proud. I must not collapse in front of her. That would be too embarrassing. When the final lap was over, Xiao Chen finally heaved a sigh of relief. He did his best to suppress the urge to collapse. He took a deep breath and sat down cross-legged, entering a state of cultivation. When a person was tired and their body reached its limits, entering a state of cultivation would allow them to bring out their full potential. In the past, Xiao Chen understood this principle. However, there was no one to supervise him, so he had never entered such a state. Now that he had this opportunity, there was naturally no reason for him to give it up. The purple thunder divine incantation slowly circulated in his body. When the essence circulated once in his body, it seeped into his skin, flesh, and bones. Xiao Chen felt a sense of relaxation that he had never felt before. His body felt extremely comfortable. The sweat on his body slowly evaporated into white smoke. Lu Ryue stood at the side and saw all this. She revealed an apologetic smile, and a look of reminiscence flashed in the depths of her eyes. It was like she was looking at herself from the past. After a while, Xiao Chen slowly stopped circulating the essence in his body. He opened his eyes and happened to meet Lu Ryue's gaze. He smiled gently and stood up. Xiao Chen said indifferently, Elder Sister Ryue, you can teach me now, right? Lu Ryue smiled gently. Not bad, the saber technique you used earlier should be the rushing thunder saber technique. I practiced this saber technique when I was young. However, it did not suit my style, so I gave up on it. A look of doubt flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Lu Ryue practiced the rushing thunder saber technique before? This was very strange. Didn't Feng Feishue say that the saber technique came from the Heavenly Qin school? Seeing the doubt in Xiao Chen's heart, Lu Ryue explained, don't be too surprised. Aside from some inherited martial techniques, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has most of the saber techniques in their collection. I once gave up on this saber technique because of its style. Let me ask you now, what do you think the style of the rushing thunder saber technique is? Do you think it suits you? What is the style of the rushing thunder saber technique? Xiao Chen had never considered this question before. Even more so, he did not consider whether this saber technique was suitable for him. However, after practicing the rushing thunder saber technique for so long, Xiao Chen had some understanding of the style of the rushing thunder saber technique. After thinking for a while, it was not difficult for him to answer, fierce and fast, imposing and forceful. It is like a gushing river. After it is unleashed, it will flow unceasingly, advancing forward with an indomitable will. Lu Ryue nodded and said, it looks like your understanding is pretty good. However, the words you used earlier were to describe the characteristics of the rushing thunder saber technique and not its style. Style is the last sentence. Move forward with indomitable will and never retreat. Taking a step back is the difference between life and death. Putting yourself on the edge of death to fight and forcing yourself into a dead end. Do you think you are suited for this style? Hearing this, Xiao Chen felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck him. It was as if he had been enlightened. Some of the problems that he had been unable to figure out in the past suddenly became clear. In the past, he always felt that his understanding of the rushing thunder saber technique was lacking something. Today he finally understood what he was lacking. What he was lacking was that kind of decisiveness. That kind of overwhelming decisiveness, to not retreat even in the face of death. However, am I really suited for this style? Xiaoqun could not help but ponder this question. After a while, a resolute look flashed in Xiaoqun's eyes. He thought of the past and said seriously, I understand now. I am suited for this style. Even though I am still lacking now, I will not give up on it in the future. Lu Rua smiled faintly, I feel that you are not suited for it. When we exchanged moves earlier, you actually wanted me to let you have one move first. You wanted to take advantage of the situation. That is definitely not the style of the rushing thunder saber technique. Xiaoqun asked doubtfully, however, you have already broken my saber technique. How can I not retreat? That is impossible. If I were to face an opponent of equal strength or a similar cultivation realm, I would definitely not retreat. You are really stubborn. The strength I used earlier definitely did not exceed that of a martial grandmaster. If you don't believe me, you can try again. Lu Rua's pretty face was filled with smiles. She had an eager look on her face. When Xiaoqun thought of the situation earlier, he smiled embarrassedly, I think it's better not, I'll just believe you. Lu Rua felt it was a pity as she said, never mind, I will not tease you anymore. It is too early to tell you all this. It is normal that you do not understand. You should practice the 8 basic saber techniques first. Let me see. Xiaoqun revealed an embarrassed expression. I don't think I have learned the basic saber techniques before. When I was young, my family only required me to learn the basic palm techniques and fist techniques. The basics of the saber and the sword were optional. At that time, I did not think of practicing the saber, so I did not practice them. When he was young, Xiaoqun was unable to condense his martial spirit. He focused all his attention on it and did not have the time to practice the basic saber techniques. Later on, after Xiaoqun successfully condensed his martial spirit, he did not pay attention to the basic saber techniques because he learned too many things. Although he did not dare to slack off when he cultivated, he did not practice the basic saber techniques. Lu Rua felt a headache coming on. Suifeng, come and die. Lu Suifeng, who was practicing the saber at the side, stopped what he was doing. He quickly walked over and asked, Sis, what's the matter? I was defeated by this fellow. Come and teach him the 8 basic saber techniques. I will give you 1 day. I will check on him tomorrow. Lu Rua rubbed her head, feeling a headache coming on. I will take my leave first. I will check on him tomorrow. That's right, don't remove the metal block in his hand. After Lu Rua spoke, she left the place. Lu Suifeng looked at Xiaoqun and asked in disbelief, Yiqin, have you really not practiced the basic saber techniques before? Xiaoqun countered with a question, is that important? I really have not practiced it before. Lu Suifeng smiled bitterly, I really have to hand it to you. Fortunately, you did not enter from the outer sect. The basic saber techniques are the foundation of all saber techniques. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion has a rule long ago. If one has not practiced the basic saber techniques to the small perfection, one cannot learn any martial techniques. Thus, people like us, as well as those cultivators who want to enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, have to practice the basic saber techniques to the small perfection at the very least. Most of them would practice it to the medial perfection. Only a few people would persevere and practice it to the great perfection like my sister. Xiaoqun did not expect the basic saber techniques to be so important. He could not help but ask, in that case, what realm have you practiced the basic saber techniques to? Lu Suifeng smiled helplessly, I do not have the perseverance. I just reached the small perfection, so I stopped practicing it. Let's not talk about this anymore. It is not too late for you to practice it now. Xiaoqun nodded. As he spoke, he was about to remove the piece of metal in his hand. When Lu Suifeng saw this, he quickly stopped him. Xiaoqun could not help but say, don't tell me you are really making things difficult for this brother. Lu Suifeng had a serious expression as he said, I am really not making things difficult for you. You are able to practice the rushing thunder saber technique to the point where it sounds like thunder. This proves that you have put in a lot of effort. Even in the history of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, not many people have been able to do this. My sister thinks very highly of you. Otherwise, she would not have given you pointers on some of the styles of the rushing thunder saber technique. The rushing thunder saber technique was created by a saber emperor. Although it is only a superior grade profound ranked martial technique, its potential is limitless. If you really want to improve further, you have to practice the basic saber techniques to the great perfection. If you want to learn it in a short period of time, aside from putting in a lot of effort, there is no shortcut. When Xiaoqun heard this, he could only stop what he was doing. Lu Suifeng started to explain and demonstrate the basic saber techniques. The basic saber techniques only had 8 moves. Sweep, hack, push, scrape, sweep, chop, and pierce. They were also known as the 8 basic saber techniques. Since it was a basic saber technique, it was naturally easy to understand. Xiaochen only needed to look at it once to understand it. After that, he started to practice by himself. Because he had 100 kilograms of metal strapped to his body, every movement was very difficult. Lu Suifeng shook his head continuously at the side. Do not move your feet carelessly. You have to raise your arms higher. Do not stop when you are sheathing your saber. When Xiaochen started to practice, he discovered that there were a lot of rules and regulations. There were clearly 8 simple movements, but he kept making mistakes. The morning slowly went by like this. During this period, Lu Suifeng continuously gave pointers. Occasionally he would demonstrate it himself. He did not show any signs of impatience, causing Xiaochen to feel very touched. It is time to eat. Elder brother Suifeng and elder brother Yichen. Xiaoming's sweet voice came from the dueling grounds. Xiaoyang and Xiaoming were carrying food in their hands as they slowly walked over. When Lu Suifeng saw this, he smiled faintly. Let's stop here for the morning. Don't listen to my sis. Back then, I spent 2 years practicing the basic saber techniques to the small perfection. It is impossible to grasp it in one day. Xiaochen wiped the sweat off his forehead and nodded to indicate that he understood. The 8 moves of the saber were the foundation of all saber techniques in the world. As the saying goes, no matter how it changed, it would not deviate from the original. Since the Heavenly Saber Pavilion stipulated that one had to learn it to the small perfection, there would naturally be a reason for it. Xiaochen was able to understand this point. Xiaoming personally made lunch. First, she took out 2 bowls of porridge and placed them in front of Xiaochen and Lu Suifeng. Afraid that Xiaochen would not understand, she said, "This is the rule set by elder sister Rua. After a large amount of exercise, you have to drink a bowl of porridge first. It will nourish your stomach before you can eat the main course." When Xiaochen heard this, he smiled faintly. He thought to himself, this girl is quite meticulous. According to the diet of earth, there is such a saying. Pu Tong. Just at this moment, Bai suddenly leaped out of the spirit blood jade on Xiaochen's chest. After it came out, it looked at Xiaoming with its large watery eyes. What a cute little fox, Xiaoming revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. Lu Suifeng glanced at the red jade pendant on Xiaochen's chest and revealed a strange expression. He said, "Is this the spirit blood jade?" Xiaochen nodded. He had not let the little fellow out for the past few days. Earlier, when Bai smelled the food, it strongly requested to come out. After Xiaochen interacted with the people here, he found them to be kind-hearted. So Xiaochen did not stop it. "Is there any more porridge?" "This little fellow is hungry," Xiaochen said as he looked at Xiaoming. Xiaoming smiled and nodded. She took out a small bowl and filled it with porridge before handing it to Bai. Bai revealed a cute smile on its face. It rubbed its head happily against Xiaoming, causing her to laugh gently. Chapter 154. After they finished their porridge and had lunch, Lu Suifeng pulled Xiaochen to the side. "If I am not wrong, your little spirit fox should have the bloodline of a 6-tailed spirit fox." Xiaochen nodded. "Is there a problem?" Lu Suifeng said seriously, "If there is no need, do not bring this little fellow out of Qingyun Peak. As the saying goes, do not reveal your wealth. Yichen, you should understand this." Xiaochen felt it was strange. Could it be that there are no rules in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Lu Suifeng shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Naturally, this Qingyun Peak is a pure land. However, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is filled with all sorts of people. It is not the pure land that you think it is. The strong preys on the weak. This happens every day." Xiaochen frowned slightly and could not help but think about Lu Chen and the other outer disciples. If the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is filled with such people, then Lu Suifeng's words are really thought-provoking. After lunch, Bai left the dueling grounds with Xiaoming without any conscience. Xiaochen knew it did not like to stay in the spirit blood jade. Since there was no danger in Qingyun Peak, he did not bother with it. "Yichen, I have something to do in the afternoon. I cannot accompany you. Sorry." Lu Suifeng said apologetically to Xiaochen. Xiaochen nodded. Lu Suifeng did not impatiently guide him for the entire morning. He was already very grateful. There was no need to force him to continue guiding him in the afternoon. Furthermore, the 8 basic movements of the saber did not require any guidance. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiaochen nod, he smiled and said, "You are a good friend. I will take my leave first. Remember not to remove the metal bars on your body. If my sister sees it, I will be in trouble." Seeing Lu Suifeng leave, Xiaochen smiled faintly. He was not in a rush to practice the basic saber techniques. He warmed up his body and waited for the food in his body to be completely digested. Xiaoqin started to run along the dueling grounds. He relied on the strength of his physical body to slowly run. After jogging in the morning, Xiaoqin had already felt the benefits of cultivating after his body reached its limit. The effect was several times better than usual. After a while, Xiaoqin slowly ran 5 or 6 laps. This time he could clearly feel that the rocks on the ground seemed to have a mysterious suction force. With every step he took, he would expend a lot of energy. This feeling was a little familiar. After thinking for a long time, Xiaoqin finally remembered where he had encountered this feeling before. Back in the sage remnant in Savage Forest, Xiaoqin had exhausted a lot of essence with every step he took toward the stone platform that towered into the sky. There was a huge difference between the two. One absorbed physical strength while the other absorbed vitality. However, they both achieved the same result through different means. With every step he took, he would immediately consume a bit of energy. It was just that he did not know if the two were related. Sweat slowly covered his forehead. Xiaoqin wiped it away. He could feel his stamina being depleted. Gritting his teeth, Xiaoqin continued to run forward. Round after round, Xiaoqin ran tirelessly step by step. Relying on his tenacious willpower, he endured the boundless loneliness. In the vast dueling grounds, he ran forward courageously. Run, run, run. I have not reached my limit yet. I have to continue persevering. After running 30 laps, Xiaoqin felt slightly dizzy. However, he knew that this was not his limit. Just like that, Xiaoqin ran 50 laps before he slowly stopped. He resisted the urge to lie down immediately. He slowly sat down cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. He slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. Essence slowly flowed through the various meridians in his body. It was unknown when, but Lu Riyue was already standing there quietly watching Xiaoqin silently. When she saw Xiaoqin's desperate appearance, it was like she saw her younger self in his eyes. Because the older generation had left, the originally bustling dueling grounds became very quiet. However, she still dragged her young body and ran continuously, step by step, just like Xiaoqin was doing today. Enduring the boundless loneliness and relying on his tenacious willpower, he finally made it to this stage step by step. The essence passed through the meridians and entered Xiaoqin's flesh and bones. That numbing feeling came again. The sweat on his body evaporated continuously, giving off white smoke. The cells in his bones, skin, and flesh started to undergo this intense activity. Under this extreme state, his physical body was continuously tempered by the essence, becoming stronger. After a while, Xiaoqin opened his eyes and got up to stretch himself. A series of crackling sounds came from all the bones in his body. Every crisp sound made him feel energized. "Elder Sister Ryue, why are you here?" Xiaoqin heard footsteps and turned his head to take a look. He discovered Lu Ryue, who was still wearing her tight-fitting long robes, slowly walking towards him. Lu Ryue smiled faintly, revealing a gentle smile. She perfectly displayed the charm of a mature woman. "That brat Suifeng always goes to Jade Maiden Peak in the afternoon. I was worried, so I came to take a look. You should have learned the 8 basic movements of the saber, right? Show me now." Xiaoqin nodded and drew the lunar shadow saber with a huang dang sound. He focused and calmed himself down. Xiaoqin took a step forward with his right foot, and the saber created a strong wind as it swept through the air. This was the first move of the basic saber technique, sweep. The saber paused in the air for a moment. Xiaoqin stepped forward with his left foot and brought his legs together. He shouted and chopped down with the saber. This was the second move, chop. The instant the saber descended, when it reached the bottom, Xiaoqin did not take a step back. Instead, he pulled the saber up. This was the third move of the basic saber technique: draw, chop, sweep, hold, chop, and pierce. Xiaoqin executed the remaining 5 moves together with his footwork without stopping. Although it was somewhat shaky, he managed to do it in one breath. Lu Ryue nodded gently at the side. She smiled and said, "Not bad. At least your basic movements and footwork are correct. However, you still lack some momentum and consistency. However, you just have to take it slow. You can use the 8 basic movements of the saber to exchange moves with me. I will slowly guide you and you will understand in the future." This basic saber technique was refined by our ancestors after tens of thousands of years. It is very important to a bladesman. When Xiaoqin heard that Lu Ryue wanted to use the basic saber technique to exchange moves with him, he was overwhelmed by the favor. A medial grade martial saint was willing to exchange moves with him and teach him the basic saber technique step by step. No one had ever received such treatment before. "Elder Sister Ryue, this is not appropriate. It is just a basic saber technique. I can practice it myself. There is no need to waste your time," Xiaoqin rejected. An impatient expression flashed on Lu Ryue's pretty face. She said, "Stop wasting time. As a man, can you be more direct? Being so wishy-washy is even more annoying than a woman." Xiaoqin did not dare to disobey. He sheathed his saber and stood opposite of Lu Ryue. Only then did Lu Ryue reveal a smile. "That's more like it. I will make the first move." Right after Lu Ryue spoke, a cold light flashed. The small saber in Lu Ryue's hand moved forward and pierced towards Xiaoqian's chest. This was the basic saber technique's pierce formula. It was a simple stab, but Lu Ryue's aura was like a rainbow. No one dared to underestimate it. Xiaoqin remembered their agreement. He could only use the 8 basic saber techniques to break this move. He quickly executed the pull formula and swung his saber upwards, blocking Lu Ryue's move. This was not a true battle. They were just exchanging moves. Thus there was no killing intent. During the exchange, Lu Ryue would occasionally give Xiaoqin pointers, telling him of his mistakes. Then she would make her own move and demonstrate the correct saber technique to him. Her expression was extremely serious. Xiaoqin's talent was high in the first place. After exchanging moves, he improved very quickly. Slowly he found the feeling. The days of Qingyun Peak passed peacefully like this. Lu Ryue insisted on coming every afternoon to exchange moves with Xiaoqin. Aside from practicing the basic saber techniques, Xiaoqin would take time out during the day to run a few laps around the dueling grounds. Every day he would push his body to its limits. Then he would immediately start cultivating, tempering his body at his limits. Now Xiaoqin could easily run 100 laps around the dueling grounds. In the middle of the night, Xiaoqin would lie on his bed and read the flowing cloud scripture that Lu Qin gave him. He would sort out the meridians in his body that were in a mess due to cultivating the battle sage origins. This was one of the rare peaceful days he had since he left Mo City. He could systematically sort out the martial techniques and knowledge that he had learned. Normally, if he had any questions regarding martial techniques, he could ask Lu Ryue for guidance. She would always give him a satisfactory answer. Although his cultivation realm did not increase by much in the past few days, his combat prowess had reached an unprecedented peak. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed just like that. Xiaoqin's basic saber techniques had made great progress. He had already reached the peak of small perfection. After practicing the basic saber techniques to this level, Xiaoqin could clearly feel that when he used the rushing thunder saber technique again, its might was much stronger than before. Furthermore, he was able to integrate it better. He was just one step away from the fusion that he had not completed in the past, and he would be able to reach a perfect state. In the end, there were still some unfortunate matters. Even when he tried to ask her about learning listening to the sword and communicating with it, he was rejected by Lu Ryue. She said that it was not the right time yet. Since he had a favor to ask, Xiaoqin could not be too forceful. The most important thing was that Lu Ryue had treated him very well in the past 2 months. On this particular day, Xiaoqin woke up very early as usual, preparing to rush to the dueling grounds. The instant he opened the door, he discovered Lu Ryue, Xiaoyang, and Xiaoming standing outside with smiles on their faces. Xiaoqin asked with some doubts, "What day is it today? Don't we have to go to the dueling grounds? Why are you all here?" Lu Suifeng giggled, "You are right. There is no need to go to the dueling grounds today. I was afraid that you would not be able to meet anyone and miss us. So I came to tell you this news in advance." Lu Ryue smiled warmly and continued the topic. "Today is the day the Supreme Elder of the Divine Saber Camp is giving a lecture at the Heaven Ascending platform. That is a true Supreme Elder. He is a martial monarch. So I decided to go with all of us." A martial monarch Supreme Elder. A fervent light flashed in Xiaoqian's eyes. His calm heart actually started to fluctuate. However, this was not surprising. Martial monarchs were already the strongest cultivators in the Great Qi nation. Chapter 155. There were 10 known martial monarchs, each of them guarding an area. It was impossible for an ordinary person to listen to his lecture. Xiaoqin had not expected a martial monarch to personally lecture everyone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Such an opportunity was hard to come by. Although it was not a one-on-one lecture, listening to his words or watching from afar might be of great help to his cultivation in the future. Lu Ryue whistled softly and a green bird slowly flew in front of the group. Lu Ryue took the lead and leaped onto it. After that she said to Xiaoqin, "Yiqin, come on. Come with me." Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "Sis, can you not be so biased? No matter what, I am still your biological younger brother. Don't give me that. If you had half of Yiqin's willpower, you would not go to Jade Maiden Peak and fool around with those female disciples. Naturally, I would not let you walk to the Heaven Ascending platform." Lu Riue lectured him from the green bird. When Xiao Yang and Xiao Ming heard this, they could not help but laugh gently. Under Lu Suifeng's envious gaze, Xiao Qin sat on the green bird and followed Lu Riue to the horizon. High up in the sky, clouds lingered. Xiao Qin sat behind Lu Riue, riding the green bird as they traveled through the clouds. Occasionally flying beasts flew by. The people on them were cultivators heading to the heaven-ascending platform. The green bird was only so big. It was unavoidable for Xiao Qin to bump into Lu Riue from time to time, causing him to feel restless. A gentle breeze blew, and Lu Riue's hair occasionally hit Xiao Qin's face. The unique fragrance of a girl flowed into his nose from her hair. As a novice in certain areas, Xiao Qin did his best to control his body's normal reactions. This was something that made one's heart beat faster and was incomparably exciting. However, one had to do their best to control it. This made Xiao Qin feel very uncomfortable. The fire in his heart grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, a magnificent ship flew over from behind the two of them. The hull of the ship was covered with all sorts of golden decorations, making it look extremely majestic. A black flag fluttered on the hull of the ship. The word Song was written on the flag in a flamboyant style. This was a warship belonging to the Lingyun Mountain Range's Biyun Peak. On the bow of the ship, the youngest son of the Biyun Peak's peak master, Song Qianhe, was dressed in luxurious clothes. He looked very handsome and his hands were placed on the railing. His clothes fluttered in the wind, giving him an indescribable elegance. There were also a few men and women on the deck. They were all disciples of Biyun Peak. They were like stars surrounding the moon, standing behind Song Qianhe, making him look even more noble. Senior Sister Lu, the heaven-ascending platform is still some distance away. Why don't you board my ship? That youth said loudly as he looked at Lu Riue's figure. Xiao Qin turned his head back to take a look. He felt that the scene in front of him was very familiar. After a while he thought about it. This was exactly the same situation as the rich second generation who drove Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, and wore branded clothes. He could not help but smile to himself. Tall, rich and handsome people exist everywhere. Lu Riue acted like she did not hear him. She did not even turn her head back as she continued to control the green bird to fly forward. That youth could not help but feel anxious. He thought that Lu Riue did not hear him, so he raised his voice and shouted again. However, Lu Riue was even more direct this time. She controlled the green bird to double its speed, leaving this person in the dust. When Song Qianhe saw the situation, he smacked the railing violently. He looked at Xiao Qin, who was behind Lu Riue, and revealed a murderous intent in his eyes. He said in a deep voice, "Who is that brat behind Lu Riue? Why have I not seen him before?" The person beside him replied, "That is the disciple that Lu Yueru recently accepted. His name seems to be Yichen. He is 16 years old and is already an inferior grade martial grand master." The person who replied was called Zhang Jin. He had the nickname of Know-It-All in Biyun Peak. His personal strength was not much, but he loved to listen to gossip. Thus he was very clear about these matters. Song Qianhe frowned slightly. He was somewhat astonished in his heart. Lu Riue actually accepted a disciple. Is she still not going to give up? This brat is actually so close to Lu Riue. She even let him ride the green bird with her. He had been eyeing this position for a long time. However, Lu Riue did not care about him at all. She did not care about him at all. When she saw Xiao Qin sitting on his seat, she wanted to kick him down immediately. Does this brat have any background? How did he enter the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? Song Qianhe continued to ask. Zhang Jin quickly said, he used Feng Feishue's recommendation letter to enter Qingyun Peak. However, this person does not seem to have any background. If he did, he would not have entered Qingyun Peak. A gleam flashed in Song Qianhe's eyes. He smiled coldly. It is easy to deal with him if he does not have any background. Lu Riue, I will make you give up. No matter what, Qingyun Peak will become history. On the green bird, Xiao Qin felt it was strange. He asked, Elder Sister Riue, that person invited you to board. Why did you ignore him? A cold light flashed on Lu Riue's face. She said in a cold voice, don't mention that person. He is just scum, the same as his father. If I board his ship, I am afraid I will not be able to resist killing him. Xiao Qin quickly shut his mouth. He knew he asked something he should not have asked. Suddenly, a melodious bird cry came from above. Lu Qin was also riding a green bird, slowly descending from above. If one looked carefully, they would discover that the blue dragon he was riding was exactly the same as Lu Riue's green bird, be it its size or color. Senior Sister Riue, are you going to the heaven ascending platform? How about we make a bet to see who gets there first? The loser will give the other party 10 inferior grade spirit stones. Lu Qin smiled faintly. Lu Ryue rolled her eyes at him and said unhappily, cut the crap. Can't you see that I am carrying another person? Lu Qin smiled gently and did not mind. He said, never mind, let's get down to business. A few days ago I went to Saber Prison to see Leng Tianyue. He specifically said that he wanted to see your disciple. Xiao Qin was startled, his expression was somewhat unnatural. Back then he had saved Leng Liusu from Leng Tianyue's hands. After he was locked up he did not change his appearance. Lu Ryue smiled coldly, Leng Tianyue, who does he think he is? Wait until he comes out. Is my disciple someone he can meet whenever he wants? I have conveyed the message. Whether you want to go or not will depend on little brother Yiqin. I will take my leave first. After Lu Qin spoke, he rode on the green bird and soared into the sky, disappearing from the two of them. Xiao Qin was very surprised at Lu Ryue's reply. He did not expect her to be so straightforward. Especially the last sentence, it made Xiao Qin feel touched. The green bird rode on the two of them for a while. Soon, a towering mountain peak appeared in front of them. The mountain peak was like the heaven viewing platform. It looked like it had been chopped in half by someone, revealing a huge platform. That was the heaven ascending platform. The heaven ascending platform was different from the heaven viewing platform. It was completely bare, there were no buildings at all. There was only a tall stone platform. On the empty ground below the stone platform, there was a sparse crowd of people who had arrived earlier. As they were about to arrive, Xiao Qin could not help but ask, Elder Sister Ryue, don't you want to know why Leng Tianyue wants me to meet him? Lu Ryue smiled gently, I don't care what your identity was in the past. You just have to remember that you are my disciple now. Leng Tianyue made a huge mistake and is locked up in Saber Prison. He will never be able to come out in this lifetime. If he wants to meet you, it is definitely not a good thing. Curiosity kills the cat. Don't let me know that you are secretly going to meet him. As the two of them spoke, Lu Ryue had already controlled the green bird and slowly landed on the empty ground of the heaven ascending platform. Lu Ryue took the lead and jumped down. Then she brought Xiao Qin to a secluded corner to rest. Most of the people on the platform were like Xiao Qin, riding on flying spirit beasts or warships. There were even more people below the mountain peak, rushing over quickly. At this moment, a sparkling and translucent jade ship slowly flew over from the horizon. There was the sound of ceremonial music coming from the jade ship. There were faint clouds surrounding it. It was like the legendary Immortal ship. The moment the ship appeared, it immediately attracted the attention of everyone on the platform and they all looked up. They looked up and saw all sorts of girls standing on the bow of the ship. They were all as beautiful as flowers and had graceful figures. Melodious laughter resounded continuously. The Jade Maiden Peak ship is here. I heard that the top beauty of Jade Maiden Peak, Chu Xinyun, will be coming as well. Is that true? This Chu Xinyun usually stays in Jade Maiden Peak. Although she is famous, I have never had the chance to see her in person. I wonder if she is as beautiful as the rumors say. She is one of the 3 golden flowers of our heavenly saber pavilion. Aside from Lu Ryue and Leng Liusu, there is no other girl in heavenly saber pavilion who can compare to her. Xiao Chen's ears were very sharp. He heard everything that these people said. He looked at Lu Ryue's charming face, which was filled with the charm of a mature woman. Jade Maiden Peak's Chu Xinyun could not help but look forward to this girl who was as famous as her. The jade ship slowly descended. One by one, beautiful women slowly walked down from the bow of the ship. In the Lingyun mountain range that was filled with spiritual qi, these women were all extremely beautiful. At first glance, they were extremely pleasing to the eyes. After a while, a girl dressed in white walked down under everyone's gazes of anticipation. Her eyes were intelligent, they were as deep as the stars. Her hands were soft, her skin was smooth, her collar was smooth, her teeth were sharp, and her eyebrows were like that of a moth. There was a faint smile on her delicate face. With just one glance, Xiao Qin felt like his soul was being hooked away. Is she smiling at me? All the men on the platform had the same question as Xiao Qin. They felt their heartbeats speed up. Is Chu Xinyun pretty? Suddenly, Lu Ryue's smiling question came from the side. Xiao Qin answered subconsciously, pretty. Is she as pretty as me? Pretty much. Pretty much your head. Lu Ryue ruthlessly smacked Xiao Chen's head. This little vixen has already hooked away Suifeng's soul. If you get hooked away by her again, I will throw you off Qingyun Peak. Xiao Qin recovered his wits and rubbed his slightly swollen head. He cried out in pain and sighed in his heart, what an undeserved calamity. It looks like no matter where I am, I should not talk about another girl in front of a beauty. This was especially so when that girl was even more beautiful than her. All the more reason not to talk about it. Her current state was the best proof. Chapter 156. Lu Riyue. Just as Xiaochen was letting his imagination run wild, a delicate voice entered his ears. He looked towards the figure and was startled. The person who came was Leng Liusu. He subconsciously hid behind Lu Riyue. Lu Riyue also saw Leng Liusu. She frowned slightly and a cold expression filled her face. When she saw Leng Liusu in a red dress walking over quickly, she smiled coldly. I thought you were killed by Leng Tianyue. I did not expect you to appear in front of me alive and kicking. Sorry to disappoint you. Not only am I not dead, I even advanced to martial saint, Leng Liusu retorted, not backing down at all. What a strong smell of gunpowder. Could it be that all the pretty girls in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion are not on good terms with Lu Riyue? Xiaochen thought to himself, feeling a headache coming on. Furthermore, he suddenly had a bad feeling. Indeed, Leng Liusu saw Xiaochen hiding behind Lu Riyue. He looked familiar and she said, Who is the one hiding behind you? Is he your new disciple? Don't tell me you are too ashamed to face others. When Lu Riyue heard this, she looked at Xiaochen with a strange expression. She casually pushed him to the front and said, What is there to be ashamed of? What are you afraid of? Xiaochen wanted to cry but no tears came out. What he was afraid of had happened. He originally thought that he did not have to see Leng Tianyue and everything would be fine. He did not expect to meet Leng Liusu, who he did not want to meet even more than Leng Tianyue. Turn around and let me see. Leng Liusu found him more and more familiar as she stared at Xiaochen. Damn it, I'm throwing caution to the wind. Xiaochen turned around and smiled faintly. Miss Leng, we meet again. It's you? Leng Liusu paused for a while and said simply. Just when Xiaochen thought he could breathe a sigh of relief. Damn pervert, you dare to appear in front of me again? I'll chop you to death. Leng Liusu drew her saber with a huang dang sound and quickly chopped at Xiaochen. The saber lit up with a resplendent light and a saber chi left the saber. Xiaochen was startled and quickly dodged. The saber chi flew towards Lu Riyue who was behind him. Lu Riyue snorted coldly and drew the small saber in her hand. With a schwa sound she chopped the saber chi into nothing. When Leng Liusu saw Xiaochen dodge, the saber in her hand buzzed, reverberating in the air. Xiaochen felt like the lunar shadow saber was going to run away by itself. Buzz. The small saber in Lu Riyue's hand started to buzz continuously. She flew forward and blocked in front of Xiaochen, blocking Leng Liusu's attack. Bang. When the two sabers clashed, there was a clanging sound. Lu Riyue did not move at all, but Leng Liusu took 3 steps back before she slowly neutralized the force from the saber. The swords in their hands buzzed continuously. Lu Riyue and Leng Liusu executed listening to the sword and communicating with it at the same time. Instantly the shockwaves spread out in all directions. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, everyone's weapons started to tremble. The sabers of some of the weaker cultivators flew out and stabbed into the ground in front of Lu Riyue and Leng Liusu. Very quickly hundreds of sabers appeared on the ground. The surrounding cultivators all surrounded them. However, the identities of the two people fighting were not simple. For a moment, no one dared to stop them. Lu Riyue, are you going to stop me from killing this perverted thief? Leng Liusu said aggressively as she looked at Lu Riyue. Lu Riyue smiled coldly and did not give in. You keep saying that my disciple is a perverted thief. Do you think I will believe you just because you say so? I can even say that you are a perverted thief. Since you say that, then tell me, what did he do to you? Lu Riyue's words were very ruthless. Leng Liusu stammered for a long time. Her face turned red. However, how could she say such an embarrassing thing in front of everyone? Leng Liusu stomped her foot and said angrily, Don't let me see you again. Otherwise I will kill you. After she spoke, she glared at Xiaochen before quickly leaving the place. The commotion died down just like that. When the surrounding people saw that there was no more commotion to watch, they picked up their weapons and left. Before they left, they all gave Xiaochen a meaningful look. Their meaning was clear. How powerful. He even dares to molest the daughter of the previous pavilion master. Xiaochen would not be able to defend himself. Even if he wanted to explain himself, he would not be able to do so. It looked like the reputation of this perverted thief was going to spread throughout the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Lu Riyue sheathed her saber and circled around Xiaochen a few times. She sized him up with a faint smile on her face, making it hard for people to understand her intentions. Xiaochen felt uncomfortable from being stared at like that. He explained, Elder Sister Riyue, actually this is all a misunderstanding. I really did not do anything. Lu Riyue smiled gently like a flower blooming. it was very beautiful. She patted Xiaochen's shoulder and said, "There is no need to explain. Little Yichen, I understand. I really could not tell that a refined person like you had such capabilities." Xiaochen was very depressed. He finally understood the difficulties that Fatso faced back then. Just as he was about to explain, another warship flew over from the horizon. This was a warship made entirely of black mysterious iron. A flag with the word Zhong on it was fluttering on the bow of the ship. A man dressed in black stood at the bow of the warship. His gaze was like lightning as he scanned the platform. The people that he looked at felt like their hearts were pierced by a sharp sword. It was extremely unbearable. Xuanhuan Peak's Zhong Xian is here. There's going to be a good show to watch. I wonder what expression he would have if he knew what happened earlier. He has been chasing after Lung Liusu for many years. He has not even touched her hand yet. This is going to be interesting. The people below discussed. There were many gazes directed at Xiaochen. Their expressions were filled with schadenfreude. This made Xiaochen feel extremely uncomfortable. The black warship shook for a while and stopped. Zhong Xian led the Xuanhuan Peak disciples to a corner. There were people in the crowd that Zhong Xian was familiar with. They quickly went over and told him what happened earlier. Zhong Xian stopped and his face immediately turned gloomy. He took heavy steps and led the Xuanhuan Peak disciples towards Xiaochen. He was filled with killing intent. "Yichen, right?" Zhong Xian stopped about 3 meters away from Xiaochen. He released all his aura and locked onto Xiaochen with killing intent. He enunciated every word clearly. He looked at Xiaochen, who was standing behind Lu Riyue, and said indifferently, "Do you dare to take a step forward?" His words were filled with killing intent. He did not hide it at all. As long as Xiaochen took a step forward, a sharp attack would immediately be launched at him. This is undisguised mockery. We have not even started yet and you already want to kill me. Xiaochen was enraged. A strand of killing intent slowly appeared in his heart. His right hand quickly grasped the hilt of the lunar shadow saber. "Do you dare to say that again?" Just as Xiaochen was about to make a move, Lu Riyue suddenly spoke. There was a cold look on her pretty face. It was as cold as ice. Zhong Xian thought about Lu Riyue's deeds and could not help but curse in his heart. "I was too rash today. With my strength as a superior grade martial saint, I am not strong enough in front of Lu Riyue." However, at this moment, if he retreated miserably in front of everyone, he would become a laughing stock. Furthermore, there were many Xuanhuan Peak disciples behind him. If they fought, he might not be a match for Lu Riyue. Thinking of this, Zhong Xian could not help but smile coldly. Why not? Dang. A cold light appeared and a saber light flickered. Just as Zhong Xian spoke, the saber was already right in front of him. A few strands of hair on his forehead were all cut off and slowly fell to the ground. Zhong Xian was greatly startled. He pushed off the ground and retreated rapidly. However, Lu Riyue was faster than him. Lu Riyue swung her saber downwards and a crack immediately appeared on the battle armor on his chest. Blood spurted out from the crack. The surrounding people all sucked in a breath of cold air. If not for the battle armor, Zhong Xian might have been chopped in half. A light flashed in Xiaochen's eyes. Lu Riyue's move was the chop character formula of the basic saber techniques. He did not expect it to be able to display such might in her hands. Blood spurted out from his chest. It was incomparably painful. Zhong Xian was infuriated. He stretched his right hand to his waist, wanting to draw his saber. However, when he drew his saber halfway, it was blocked by Lu Riyue's left hand. Lu Riyue's right leg carried the sound of the wind as she kicked at Zhong Xian's chest with lightning speed. There was a loud bang as her foot landed on his chest. Lu Riyue controlled the force of this kick very well. Zhong Xian did not get sent flying. Instead, he fell to the ground. There were kasie sounds coming from his back. It was unknown how many of his bones were broken. Zhong Xian struggled to stand up. Lu Riyue mercilessly continued to stomp on his chest. Zhong Xian groaned in pain and a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth as he lay back down. Although all this seemed to have happened over a long period of time, it actually happened within a few breaths. The two of them had only exchanged one move. The Xuanhuan Peak disciples did not even have the time to react. By the time they reacted, Zhong Xian was already severely injured by Lu Riyue. He was lying on the ground, unable to move. Zhong Xian's position in Xuanhuan Peak was no lower than the grandson of the first elder, the Peak Master. He was also a true inheritor of Xuanhuan Peak. If anything happened to him in front of everyone, no one would have a good time. The Xuanhuan Peak disciples drew their sabers and rushed at Lu Riyue. Lu Riyue smiled coldly and her aura soared. The surrounding people could not help but tremble. This is the aura of a superior grade martial saint. She actually reached the strength of a superior grade martial saint. This is too horrifying. No wonder she only used one move to defeat Zhong Xian. The difference in strength is too great. Under this horrifying aura, the Xuanhuan Peak disciples all stopped in their tracks. They looked at Lu Riyue in horror, not daring to move even half a step. Zhong Xian, who was on the ground, was also shocked. He could not believe it. How can this be? 2 months ago you were only a medial grade martial saint. How did you improve so quickly? After a cultivator became a martial saint, every time they advanced by a grade, there would be a world of difference in their strength. It was extremely difficult to advance further. Some people with poor talent might not even be able to take a step forward even after 10 years. Lu Riyue reached superior grade martial saint at the age of 24. There were probably not many people with such talent in the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Lu Riyue withdrew her foot and looked at Zhong Xian on the ground. She said coldly, "Scram. Don't put on such airs in front of me in the future. Otherwise, even if I kill you, your father would not dare to say anything." Chapter 157. The disciples of Xuanhuan Peak quickly helped Zhong Xian up and applied medicine on him. Then they lifted him up and left in a hurry as though they were fleeing for their lives. At this moment, 3 more warships flew over from the horizon. The banners on the bows had the words Lu, Yu, and Feng written on them. The people from Wanren Peak, Beichen Peak and Gangyu Peak are here. What a coincidence. The true inheritors of these 3 peaks are also pursuing Leng Liusu. I wonder how they will react, someone below said with a smile. Damn, I almost have a personal guard already. Xiaoqin felt a headache coming on. He finally understood the saying of Confucius, women should not be offended. He could not bear it. How many pursuers does this woman have? I wonder if there is no end. When Lu Riyue saw Xiaoqian's frustrated expression, she smiled gently and said, "If you were the young pavilion master of Heavenly Saber Pavilion, these men might come and pursue you." Xiaoqian's face darkened. He said, "This joke is not funny. Speaking of which, elder sister Riyue, a natural beauty like you, do you not have many pursuers? If there are, they can help me block them." Lu Riyue's pretty face did not show any expression. She said casually, "If I had such a brainless pursuer, I would just kill him with my saber. I would not be able to afford to lose face." The 3 warships slowly landed. Someone immediately told them what happened earlier. The true inheritors of the 3 peaks glanced at Xiaoqin. In the end, they feared Lu Riyue and did not come over. After a while, the cultivators from the foot of the mountain rushed to the platform. The huge platform was quickly filled with people. It looked like the teachings of a martial monarch had a fatal attraction to cultivators. When Lu Suifeng and the others saw Xiaoqin, they quickly went over. However, Lu Suifeng only greeted Xiaoqin before he rushed over to where the Jade Maiden Peak disciples were. Lu Riyue snorted coldly, "Useless." Oh. Just at this moment, an intense spatial fluctuation appeared in the surroundings. Ripples could be seen spreading out in the air. This was a sign that a martial monarch was coming. When a cultivator reached the realm of martial monarch, they would have a basic grasp of the laws of space. Traveling 1,000 kilometers in an instant was not a difficult task for them. They would be able to evolve their own laws and become a martial sage in one step, possessing a lifespan of 1,000 years. However, in the past 1,000 years, there had been very few martial sages in the Great Qin nation. Suddenly, the ripples moved quickly and a tiny spatial crack appeared on the high platform of the heaven ascending platform. An old man's figure appeared out of nowhere. The old man's face was covered in wrinkles, and his body was very lethargic. However, his eyes were as bright as the stars, deep and distant, as if they contained a boundless universe. A powerful aura instantly spread throughout the entire mountain peak. Everyone felt a huge pressure, and the noisy heaven ascending platform instantly fell silent. Xiaoqin looked at the cultivator on the platform and felt astonished. This was probably the strength of a peak martial monarch. He was just one step away from becoming a martial sage. That was if the old man could last that long. I have not come out for a long time. I do not know if I will have the chance to in the future. I will not speak too much nonsense. I will only speak about my past experiences. However, everyone has their own style. Do not blindly follow others. You have to consider your own situation and not bite off more than you can chew. The old man's somewhat hoarse voice reached everyone's ears. It was not loud, but it seemed to imprint itself in their minds, making it impossible to forget. When I was young, I harbored a dream. I brought my beloved saber to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. I wanted to become the strongest bladesman in the world. I wanted to learn the unblockable saber techniques, the fastest saber techniques in the world. When I grew old, I realized how laughable I was back then. There was the saying, biting off more than you can chew, wanting to reach the heavens in one step. This was the principle. By the time I understood, I had already wasted several decades. Everyone thinks that the saber is tyrannical and ferocious. However, they do not know that every saber has its own emotions. It can be gentle like water, free and unrestrained, or direct. Every bladesman has their own personality. I remember that in the past I met a few demonic geniuses. The saber that accompanied me for many years broke on the spot. I switched to a few sabers and trained bitterly for many years, but I was still no match for those geniuses. Some people are blessed by the heavens. Everyone will meet such geniuses. No matter what, you can change your saber, but the heart of the bladesman cannot be shaken. This old man spoke very slowly. The content of his speech was very different from what Xiaoqin expected. Xiaoqin originally thought that the old man would be talking about a powerful martial technique. Who knew, he only talked about some of the old man's comprehensions and experiences. The old man's tone was extremely calm. He did not cite any classics or make up a long story. The old man only spoke about the problems he faced in every cultivation realm back then. The old man's ordinary experiences, coupled with his ordinary speaking speed, were very calm. However, everyone present had some sort of comprehension. This was because the experiences the old man spoke about were experienced by all the cultivators of different cultivation realms. Many of the problems they had were answered by the old man's words. When the old man spoke about the problems and setbacks he faced when he was a martial grandmaster, Xiaoqin listened very carefully. After that, he combined it with his current situation. Many of the problems he faced were suddenly cleared up. After that, when the old man spoke about the martial saint realm, it was like a beacon for Xiaoqin. This way he would be able to avoid many detours. Not only did the old man talk about his experiences, he also talked about some of his unique understandings of saber techniques. Every understanding he had would be combined with his own experiences, using practical examples to illustrate. It did not make anyone feel empty. Everyone present could easily understand it. Xiaoqin could not help but admire the old man. This was what a true grandmaster was. He was not pretentious, not talking about big but empty things, not deliberately mystifying things. This was because even if he said it, no one would understand it. It would only confuse the people listening. A person's talent determines how fast they can go. As for a person's perseverance, it determines how far they can go. One cannot give up on oneself because of talent, belittling oneself. Perseverance is the most important thing. After saying this, the old man silently left. His voice was still echoing in everyone's ears, so no one noticed the old man's departure. After a long time, everyone came to their senses. Only then did they realize that the old man had already left for a long time. The stone platform returned to its bustling state. Cultivators walked in groups of 2s and 3s, heading down the mountain and discussing their earlier experiences. Xiaoyang said somewhat excitedly, "As long as I have perseverance, I will become a martial monarch one day." Earlier, the old man talked about how he once met a strong cultivator who cultivated the physical body. That cultivator was as strong as a martial monarch and was extremely strong. Hence, Xiaoyang was very encouraged. Xiaoqin smiled faintly and did not say anything. He agreed with the old man's last sentence. No matter how talented one was, without perseverance, one would not be able to go far on the path of cultivation. Lu Rua looked into the distance at Lu Suifeng, who was smiling as he followed Chu Xinyun. She shook her head and said, "Xiaoyang and Xiaomeng, don't go to pick the ice crystal flowers today. Leave it to Yi Chen and Suifeng. I already spoke to Suifeng this morning. You just have to wait for him." Xiaoyang shook his head and said, "Elder sister Rua, I feel a fire burning in my heart. Let me go." "Burning your head?" Lu Rua used the scabbard and knocked heavily on the stout Xiaoyang. "Do you really think that you are an expert after listening to a few words? Calm down first." Xiaoyang felt the pain and immediately shut up. He did not say anything else about his blood burning. He followed Lu Rua to the bottom of the mountain. Xiaoqin did not leave. He stood where he was and waited for Lu Suifeng. After a while, Lu Suifeng walked over to Xiaoqin. What made Xiaoqin surprised was that the top beauty of Jade Maiden Peak, Chu Xinyun, also followed. Xiaoqin frowned slightly. "What is this? This brat Lu Suifeng is too reckless. He is going out to do proper business, but he still brings a girl with him." Lu Suifeng quickly walked over. His handsome face was filled with smiles as he introduced her to Xiaoqin. "This is Miss Xinyun from Jade Maiden Peak. This time she is going to Evil Wind Valley with us." "Hello, I am Chu Xinyun." Suifeng mentioned you to me before. Chu Xinyun smiled faintly and took the initiative to greet Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen stood so close to Chu Xinyun, that kind of unforgettable beauty nearly suffocated him. However, Xiao Chen had seen many beauties. He was somewhat immune to them. His expression did not change as he smiled gently. I wonder why Miss Chu is going to Evil Wind Valley with us? Before Chu Xinyun could say anything, Lu Suifeng spoke first. Aside from being a cultivator, Xinyun is also an alchemist. Although she can obtain some herbs in the sect, it is very taxing on her contribution points. Thus she picks most of them herself. Chu Xinyun nodded, tacitly agreeing with Lu Suifeng's words. Xiao Chen was speechless. Looking at their attitudes, Xiao Chen was sure that Lu Suifeng had never even held Chu Xinyun's hand before. Never mind, as long as I can obtain the ice crystal flower, it will be fine. Hopefully nothing unexpected happens, Xiao Chen thought helplessly. The three of them started to descend the mountain. Along the way, Lu Suifeng was very lively. He talked about all sorts of topics. Occasionally, Chu Xinyun would smile gently. She was extremely beautiful, making Lu Suifeng feel very satisfied. Xiao Chen shook his head, but there was nothing he could do. After the three of them descended the mountain, they did not leave Lingyun Mountain Range. Instead, they went to the Spirit Beast Workshop of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The journey to Evil Wind Valley was very long. Although the three of them were not slow, they did not want to waste their essence on the journey. Thus they planned to rent a few fast horses. Using their inner disciple identity medallions, the three of them could rent the lowest ranked horses for free. If they wanted to rent spirit beasts, they would have to pay extra money. There were all sorts of spirit beasts in the Spirit Beast Workshop. If you had enough spirit stones, you could rent some high-ranked spirit beasts to fight for you. However, the three of them could only look at these spirit beasts. Renting them was very expensive. Although Xiao Chen was not lacking in money, it was not good for him to expose himself. Chapter 158. After choosing their horses and registering them, a discordant voice came from behind them. Brother Lu, stop. Xiao Chen turned his head to take a look. It was indeed Song Qianhe riding a 3-meter-tall flame cloud colt towards the crowd. A few Biyun Peak disciples were riding flame cloud colts behind him, slowly following behind him. This flame cloud colt was a rank 3-horse type spirit beast. Its fur was like a red cloud of fire. It looked very beautiful. Furthermore, when it galloped, it was very fast like a cloud of fire. When Lu Suifeng saw Song Qianhe, the smile on his face disappeared. He immediately turned his head and said, "Ignore him, let's go." After he spoke, he rode off on his horse. Xiao Chen and Chu Xinyun followed behind. Soon they disappeared from Song Qianhe's vision. Song Qianhe smiled coldly and stroked the horse he was sitting on. He said, "Wait until I take care of your sister. Let's see how angry you are then." Zhang Jin, who was behind him, suddenly said, "Senior brother Song, it was not easy for that brat to leave Qingyun Peak. This is an opportunity. If we are fast, we will be able to catch up to them quickly." Song Qianhe smiled faintly, "I'm free to make my own decisions. Today is the day the ice crystal flower blooms. That sickly man on Qingyun Peak needs to use the ice crystal flower as medicine to prolong his life." It seemed like there was a big conflict between Biyun Peak and Qingyun Peak. Otherwise, the expressions of the Lu sisters would not change immediately when they saw Song Qianhe. Although Xiao Chen was curious, it was obvious that Lu Suifeng did not want to talk about this topic. Thus Xiao Chen did not ask for a rebuff. The three of them galloped on their horses, kicking up a cloud of dust. Although they were not riding horses like the flame cloud colts, they were still much faster than ordinary horses. After traveling for 4 hours, the three of them finally arrived at Evil Wind Valley. Like before, the area outside of Evil Wind Valley was bustling. This might be the first time Chu Xinyun came to such a place. She was very curious and looked around. However, for an absolute beauty like her, if she did not keep a low profile when she went out, she was destined to be the center of attention. Soon, she attracted the attention of all the cultivators outside the valley. Xiao Chen could even hear some people swallowing their saliva. It was as wretched as one could imagine. He could not help but smile bitterly in his heart, hoping that there would not be any trouble. Fortunately, the silver tokens on their waists clearly indicated their identities. These outer sect disciples could only look at them and did not dare to do anything improper. Even the most ordinary disciple in the inner sect could easily crush 3 outer sect disciples. This was caused by the strict elimination system of the last place. At this moment, Lu Suifeng's complexion had already recovered. He familiarly found a place to store the horses. Then the three of them quickly entered Evil Wind Valley. "Xinyun, I'm afraid something might happen. How about we go pick the ice crystal flower first?" Lu Suifeng asked Chu Xinyun. Chu Xinyun smiled faintly. I have no objections. After all, I am not in a rush for my medicinal pill. Just treat it as going down the mountain to take in the scenery. When Lu Suifeng heard this, he smiled. He quickly walked towards the place where the ice crystal flower was. There was a senior in Qingyun Peak who needed the ice crystal flower as an ingredient to prolong his life. Thus, every once in a while Lu Suifeng would come to pick it. Fortunately, that senior was almost fully recovered. After picking it this time, he should be able to make a complete recovery. There would not be any more trouble in the future. Lu Suifeng led the way in front. He had come to this place more than once or twice. He was much more familiar with it than Xiaoqin. As they walked, they passed through the river and the forest. They did not meet any spirit beasts before they arrived at the cliff. Something's wrong, there's a problem. The three of them had just walked out of the forest when a strong smell of blood came with the cool breeze. Lu Suifeng's expression turned cold as he rushed forward. Below the tall cliff lay the corpses of two young ice apes. Their chests were torn open and the valuable internal organs and spirit cores had all been taken away. Looking at the cliff, the place where the ice crystal flower used to be was now empty. The ice crystal flower, even its leaves, had been pulled out by someone. This was a medicine that could be used to save lives. Unexpectedly, it was taken away by someone. Lu Suifeng revealed a blank expression as he muttered, "How can this be? Who is so wicked to pull out the roots?" Xiaoqin looked at the corpses of the young ice apes on the ground. The blood had yet to coagulate and the jagged teeth on the wounds were still very clear. This meant that this group of people had not left for long. Xiaoqin extended out his spiritual sense and spread it out continuously. In an instant, the surrounding 2,000 meters was imprinted in Xiaoqin's mind. Xiaoqin eliminated the cultivators one by one. Finally, two medial grade martial grandmasters were stared at by Xiaoqin. The silver medallions on their waists were very eye-catching. Retracting his spiritual sense, he turned it into a line and scanned the two of them. Indeed, he saw that one of them had an entire ice crystal flower wrapped in his bosom. After the two of them walked for a long time, they stopped in a dense forest. A group of cultivators riding on flame cloud colts had been waiting there for a long time. The person leading them was Song Qianhe. He received the ice crystal flower and revealed a sinister smile. He said indifferently, "Lu Rua, let's see how you are going to reject me this time. When I completely subdue you, Qingyun Peak will naturally be annexed by my Biyun Peak." Xiaoqin's expression turned cold. He felt a rage in his heart for no reason. He revealed a heavy killing chi on his face and his expression became very sharp. Beside this group of people, there was an outer sect cultivator dressed in luxurious robes. It was the man with the scar, Yan Tianjing, who had mocked Xiaoqin previously. Yan Tianjing smiled faintly, "Elder brother Song, I did a pretty good job, right? I have the most spies in the outer sect. If you want me to keep an eye on someone, I will definitely be able to find out everything about them." This Yan Tianjing was the second young master of the Shihe province's Yan clan. He had a very strong background. Song Qianhe did not dare to slight him. He smiled slowly and said, "Brother Yan, you must be joking. How can you say that you are doing me a favor? I Song owe you a favor. I can give you a spot in Biyun Peak at any time." Yan Tianjing smiled in satisfaction. He had worked so hard for Song Qianhe for this result. If he could enter Biyun Peak, his position in the clan would immediately rise. Xiaoqin could not be bothered to continue listening. He placed a spiritual mark on Song Qianhe's body before quickly withdrawing his spiritual sense. Lu Suifeng still had a confused expression. Chu Xinyun, who was beside him, did not know how to persuade him. Xiaoqin thought for a while before saying, "This ice crystal flower was taken by Song Qianhe." Song Qianhe? Lu Suifeng was stunned when he heard this. He immediately said, "Yi Qin, how did you know?" Of course Xiaoqin could not tell him this. He could only lie, "I have a secret treasure that can sense things very strongly. Earlier, I saw two inner disciples hand the ice crystal flower over to Song Qianhe." "How hateful," Lu Suifeng said angrily. His right hand hammered down on the mountain wall violently. Cracks appeared on the stone wall and pieces of rock fell down. "This Lu Suifeng must be trying to use the ice crystal flower to threaten my sister. Previously, his father wanted to use the excuse of marriage to invade my Qingyun Peak. After my sister rejected him, he did not give up. Now he is using this despicable method." Chu Xinyun's thoughts were more meticulous. She said to Xiaoqin, "Yi Qin, how many people did Song Qianhe bring? What are their cultivations like?" Xiaoqin replied, "Including him there is a total of 10 inner disciples. The one with the highest cultivation is Song Qianhe, a peak martial grand master. Aside from that, there is an outer disciple, Yan Tianzheng, an inferior grade martial grand master. He was the one who found out Lu Suifeng's whereabouts and reported it to Song Qianhe. When Chu Xingyun heard this, her pretty face revealed a worried expression. The weakest inner disciple was a medial grade martial grand master. Adding in Yan Tianzheng, they had a total of 11 martial grand masters. On her side there were only 3 people. The difference in strength was too great. A cold gleam flashed in Lu Suifeng's eyes. He said coldly, "I don't care about anything else. We have to obtain the ice crystal flower. Otherwise my sister might really fall into that bastard's hands. Yichen, lead the way. We have to intercept them before they leave the valley." Xiaoqin nodded his head and felt for the spiritual imprint he had obtained. He executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art and circled around the small path towards that group of people. His figure leaped across the ground, moving as fast as lightning. Along the way, Xiaoqin kept thinking of countermeasures. The inner disciples of Heavenly Saber Pavilion were all elites. Within the same cultivation realm, ordinary cultivators were far from being a match for them. Xiaoqin did not dare to be careless. Suddenly Xiaoqin stopped and said, "The distance is too far. Furthermore, they are riding flame cloud colts. We will not be able to catch up to them." After Xiaoqin spoke, he did not care about the two's shock. A silver warship shot out from his eyes and he quickly said, "Quickly get on." The situation was urgent. Although Chu Xingyun and Lu Suifeng were shocked, they did not have the chance to ask. They jumped on without saying anything else. After the two of them got on, Xiaoqin activated the formations on the silver warship with all his might. He turned into a bolt of lightning and quickly flew forward. After a short while, Xiaoqin arrived in front of Song Qianhe and the others. Xiaoqin quickly descended and leaped onto a big tree. "They should be passing by here. Don't show any mercy, kill them all." Xiaoqin's words did not contain any emotions. They were incomparably cold. Chu Xingyun and Lu Suifeng trembled in fear. Chu Xingyun said, "Yichen, killing a fellow disciple is a huge crime in Heavenly Saber Pavilion. If you are discovered, you will be tortured to death. We can discuss this with Song Qianhe." "How naive," Xiaoqin smiled coldly. "Do you think everyone is as pure as you? If you are afraid, you don't have to participate. Being soft-hearted will only ruin things. This matter has nothing to do with you in the first place." When Chu Xingyun heard this, she was stunned. She frowned slightly. She was so angered by Xiaoqin that she choked. She did not expect Xiaoqin to be so direct. There was no man in Heavenly Saber Pavilion who dared to speak to her like that. Lu Suifeng also advised from the side, "This time it might really be a fight to the death. Xingyun, you better stay back." Dong, dong, dong. The sound of horses galloping came from the front. There were slight tremors on the ground. Xiaoqin was hidden on top of a tree and he could feel the tree shaking slightly. He took out the Soul Slayer bow and Essence Light arrow. He focused and drew the bowstring. There was nothing else in his eyes. He just stared straight ahead. Chapter 159. So, when Song Qianhe and the others appeared in Xiaoqin's vision, Xiaoqin did not hesitate to release the Essence Light arrow. The Essence Light arrow turned into a beam of light, carrying a boundless killing chi as it flew forward rapidly. This arrow was not aimed at Song Qianhe. This battle was too dangerous. Xiaoqin did not dare to be careless and wanted to kill him in one strike. This arrow was aimed at the weakest person in the group, Zhang Jin. As the horses galloped, dust billowed. Suddenly Song Qianhe, who was on horseback, felt a killing chi. When he saw a cold light flying in front of him, he quickly jumped off his horse and shouted, "Enemy attack! Quickly dismount!" Xiaoqin was astonished in his heart. Fortunately, he did not aim the Essence Light arrow at this person. Looking at his reaction speed, this arrow might not be able to do anything. Zhang Jin was preparing to dismount when the Essence Light arrow pierced his throat with a "so" sound. The arrow carried a huge force and instantly pulled him off his horse. His body flew backwards and knocked into a cultivator. The flame cloud colt he was riding on was startled and jumped around frantically. The scene instantly turned chaotic. Amidst the chaos, another Essence Light arrow flew by gracefully. The flame cloud colt under him was immediately startled and jumped around wildly. The scene instantly turned chaotic. In the midst of the chaos, another Essence Light arrow flew by gracefully. A Biyun Peak disciple was pierced through the throat and pinned to the ground. When Xiaoqin saw that there were no more opportunities, he put away the Soul Slayer bow and took out the Lunar Shadow Saber. He said, "Make your move. Remember to help me delay Song Qianhe." Lu Suifeng and Chu Xingyun were in disbelief when they saw Xiaoqin kill 2 people from Biyun Peak in the blink of an eye. After all, These were fellow disciples of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They had some reservations in their hearts. Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyun were in disbelief when they saw Xiaochen attack as he pleased. In the blink of an eye he had killed 2 Biyun Peak disciples. After all, these were fellow disciples of Heavenly Saber Pavilion. They had some reservations in their hearts. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Xiaochen descended from the sky and landed beside Song Qianhe. Behind the flame cloud cult, Song Qianhe saw Xiaochen's appearance clearly. He was somewhat astonished as he said, "It's you, Lu Ryue's disciple. You actually dare to kill the people of my Biyun Peak. You are truly seeking death." The moment he spoke, the remaining 8 cultivators all poked their heads out. When they saw that Xiaochen was alone, their initial fear instantly vanished. They surrounded Xiaochen aggressively. "Since you delivered yourself to my doorstep, don't blame me for being merciful. Kill him," Song Qianhe said with a cold expression. Clank clank. The sound of a saber being unsheathed could be heard. The saber light rose up and the wind howled. 8 silhouettes rushed towards Xiaochen quickly. Boundless killing intent swept towards Xiaochen. Song Qianhe did not make a move. In his eyes, Xiaochen was already a dead man. There was no need to pay any attention to him. He looked into the distance and saw 2 figures rushing over quickly. The corner of his mouth curled up in a cold smile. Lu Suifeng and Chu Xinyun. "That's good as well. It gives me an excuse to make my move on you." Flight on wings, disordered dance of 1,000 years. Xiaochen's expression was calm as he executed the disordered dance of 1,000 years. A strong gust of wind rose from his body. His figure was already in the air, continuously changing his position. Saber lights shot out in all directions and energy flew everywhere. There were clanging sounds. Xiaochen, who was in the air, left behind a series of afterimages. In an instant he sent out countless saber strikes. Even though he moved later, he arrived first, attacking the 8 people first. His figure flickered. It was hard to tell which was the real one. The people of Biyun Peak looked at Xiaochen, who was in the air. They could not figure out his figure at all. They could only passively block when the saber light flashed by. In an instant, Xiaochen single-handedly dealt with these 8 people. Furthermore, he did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Xiaochen even held the upper hand. The boundless saber light seemed endless. Combined with the afterimages in the air, it was dazzling. After the disordered dance of 1,000 years was executed, Xiaochen's body paused in the air. The blue dragon in the river in his body leaped up ferociously. Xiaochen's feet pushed off the air as though he was on flat ground. His body quickly flipped backward. When they landed, the 8 cultivators all had a few wounds on their bodies. Yan Tianjing, who was in the crowd, suddenly shouted angrily, "I'll smack you to death." Dragon seizing hand. A huge black hand appeared above Xiaochen's head. It covered the sun as though it covered the sky and pressed down on Xiaochen. Xiaochen's expression changed slightly. He did not expect this Yan Tianjing to be a Yan clan disciple with an inherited martial spirit. He pushed off the ground and quickly dodged. The remaining 7 people did not stop moving. They quickly rushed at Xiaochen. Saber lights flashed wantonly. The 7 of them used their martial techniques, taking turns to attack Xiaochen. Xiaochen did not panic in the face of danger. He brought out all the comprehensions he had gained in the past few days. Using only the basic saber techniques, he broke the martial techniques of these people one by one. There were 8 saber techniques: sweep, hack, push, scrape, sweep, chop, chop and pierce. Xiaochen made use of every opportunity he had. He continuously executed them as he fought with the 7 people. Occasionally he dodged the huge black palm descending from above. The heaven-ranked movement technique, Blue Dragon Cloud Soaring Art, allowed Xiaochen's body to be as nimble as a flood dragon. Although the situation was dangerous, he was not injured at all. These 7 people were Biyun Peak disciples. Normally they trained together. Now that they worked together, their movements were perfect. Xiaochen could not find any openings in a short period of time. Both sides could only fight in a stalemate. On the other side, Lu Suifeng knew that they had shed all pretense of cordiality. He did not hesitate to draw his saber and fight with Song Qianhe. The 2 of them had grasped the martial techniques of Qingyun Peak and Biyun Peak. Their fight was very intense. However, Song Qianhe's cultivation realm was higher than Lu Suifeng's. He had the upper hand. If it were not for Chu Xinyun helping him, he would have been in danger. "Chu Xinyun, have you forgotten the rules of Heavenly Saber Pavilion?" They dared to attack their fellow sect members. They have already committed a capital offense. If you continue to fight, you will be considered an accomplice. Song Qianhe saw that the fight was not going to end, so he used psychological tactics and shouted at Chu Xinyun. These words struck Chu Xinyun's weak point. Her hands could not help but pause for a moment. Song Qinhe smiled coldly and took advantage of the opportunity. 3 saber lights appeared in the air. His body was like flowing water and his speed doubled. This was Biyun Peak's 3 flowing cloud images. Lu Suifeng, who had been working together with Chu Xinyun, was caught off guard. He was struck by 3 saber lights and 3 bloody wounds appeared on his chest. Blood immediately flowed out. Seeing Lu Suifeng injured, Chu Xinyun quickly recovered and blocked Song Qinhe's killing move. The 2 of them worked together to block Song Qinhe's attack once again. However, it was clear that they were at a disadvantage. Xiao Qin easily dealt with the saber lights of the 7 people. When he saw this scene, he could not help but sigh to himself. At the crucial moment of life and death, Chu Xinyun is still in a daze. This little girl is unreliable. Shua. Noticing that Xiao Chen was distracted, one of them took the opportunity to increase his speed. The saber in his hand left a small wound on Xiao Chen's arm. Everyone rejoiced in their hearts. After fighting for so long, they finally managed to injure Xiao Chen. Their morale could not help but increase. The cold light on their sabers became even sharper. Xiao Chen smiled faintly to himself. When he saw the huge black hand descending on him again, he purposely slowed down his pace. Xiao Chen was struck by the shockwave from the huge black hand. He stumbled and fell to the ground. After that, he quickly got up in a sorry state. Xiao Chen's back was facing the crowd, and he immediately revealed an opening. A few more saber lights landed on Xiao Chen's body. By the time Xiao Chen turned around, his body was already covered in wounds. He had a pained expression on his face. He looked very miserable. There is no need to waste time. Everyone put in more effort and kill him quickly. Yan Tianzheng, who was at the side, sent out another black hand image as he said excitedly. The 7 Biyun Peak disciples became excited as well. Whoever killed Xiao Chen first would be rewarded greatly. At that time, Song Qinhe would definitely reward them handsomely. Their essence was rapidly depleting as they continuously executed all sorts of killing moves. Their originally well-coordinated footwork was now in disarray. They only wanted to kill Xiao Chen quickly. However, these people did not notice that although there were many wounds on Xiao Chen's body, they were not fatal. Furthermore, the wounds were not deep, they were only superficial wounds. Although it looked like a bloody mess, it was actually all superficial wounds on his body. For the past 2 months, Xiao Chen had been tempering his body every day. Regular attacks could no longer leave behind any fatal wounds on his body. Xiao Chen's expression was extremely unsightly as he quickly retreated. His footsteps were very disorderly. Facing the attacks of the torrential rain, he was like a floating leaf swaying left and right. He was surrounded by danger. It seemed like as long as there was one final strike, Xiao Chen would immediately die without a complete corpse. Just at this moment, a Biyun Peak disciple had already left the group far behind because he was in too much of a hurry. A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He stopped moving and a boundless flame started to burn in the depths of his right eye. When that person saw that Xiao Chen did not move, he rejoiced. He leaped into the air and hacked at Xiao Chen's head with his saber, creating a strong wind. When the saber was only 2 centimeters away from Xiao Chen's forehead, a flame as thick as a pinky suddenly spewed out from Xiao Chen's right eye. Its speed was extremely fast and it pierced through that person's chest. A hole appeared in that person's chest. He revealed an incredulous expression. When he saw the hole in his chest rapidly expanding, he was incomparably horrified. That person wanted to grab onto something, but there was nothing he could do to stop the spread of the flame. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a pile of ashes and fell to the ground. Xiaojiao. The sudden turn of events caught the Biyun Peak disciples off guard. 3 Biyun Peak disciples who were on good terms with Xiaojiao lost their rationality. They roared angrily and leaped into the air. 3 saber lights, each about 6 meters long, hacked down at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen revealed a disdainful smile. Although this irrational attack looked ferocious, it was actually full of openings. If he used some skill, he could easily receive it. He took a small step back with his right foot and tilted his body slightly, using the 8 steps of the pole formula. He executed the 8 moves of the saber technique, and with a huang dang sound, the lunar shadow saber easily blocked the 3 saber strikes. The huge black hand in the sky condensed again. It wanted to make use of this opportunity to smash down on Xiao Chen. You are really never-ending. Xiao Chen snorted coldly and pointed his left hand to the sky. Using his fingers as a sword, a similarly huge black hand appeared. The 2 fingers of the huge hand were like a sharp sword, instantly breaking Yan Tianjing's dragon-seizing hand. Chapter 160. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He opened his left hand and the huge black hand turned into a huge mountain with 5 fingers. How can this be? My Yin clan's dragon-seizing hand does not have an inherited martial spirit. It is impossible to execute it. How could he learn it? Under Yin Tianjing's disbelieving gaze, the huge hand smashed down and pushed him to the ground. He vomited a mouthful of blood. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and the blue dragon martial spirit in his body roared ferociously. A boundless essence poured into his right hand. Xiao Chen swung the lunar shadow saber ferociously, creating a strong wind. He flung away the 3 people in the air. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky. The saber lit up with a resplendent electric light. He quickly executed drawing the saber. This was the rushing thunder saber technique that was close to great perfection. This saber strike was as fast as lightning. It brought with it a bone-chilling cold wind. It directly chopped the person who was preparing to sneak attack him in half. When the 3 Biyun Peak disciples who were flung to the ground saw their companion chopped in half at the waist by Xiao Chen, the huge visual impact caused them to feel a chill in their hearts. They stood there blankly for a moment before rushing over again. Xiao Chen smiled gently and took a step forward. Another bolt of lightning streaked across the sky. Xiao Chen's aura slowly rose. Facing the 3 Biyun Peak disciples charging at him, Xiao Chen grasped the saber hilt tightly with his right hand. He casually pulled and drew a resplendent arc in the air. The arc flickered with electric light. Explode! Xiao Chen shouted and the electric light on the arc trembled violently, giving off a loud sound. It created a sharp shockwave. The air exploded like flowing water and the 3 people were immediately knocked back. Footsteps came from behind. The remaining 3 people had already surrounded him from behind. Xiao Chen ignored them. Accompanied by a bolt of lightning, his body soared into the sky. This rushing heaven chop had already been executed to perfection by Xiao Chen. His body seemed to tear through space as he streaked across the sky like a beam of light. The rainbow light disappeared in a blink of an eye. After a long distance there was a loud explosion. A cultivator's body was pierced through, exploding into pieces. Hovering in the air, Xiao Chen's body strangely paused in the air. Thunderclaps continued to explode behind him. The sound waves shook the surroundings, causing the leaves in the dense forest to fall. Because he was afraid of being distracted, Xuanhuan had not been paying attention to the battle at the side. Now that Xiao Chen had caused such a huge commotion, he had no choice but to look. In the end, Xuanhuan turned pale with fright. Originally he thought he could easily take down Xiao Chen. However, he had already killed 3 Biyun Peak disciples. Furthermore, he held the upper hand. Lu Suifeng and Chu Xingyun were astonished at Xiao Chen's strength. They quickly delayed Xuanhuan, preventing him from helping. The battle between the 3 of them became even more intense. Xuanhuan was very anxious. His attacks became heavier and heavier, forcing the 2 of them to retreat. However, after Chu Xingyun used her true strength, the 2 of them had no problem blocking Xuanhuan's attacks. Rushing thunder chop. Xiao Chen shouted and his saber gave off a bright glow. It was like lightning descending from the sky. Xiao Chen landed on the head of a Biyun Peak disciple. The lunar shadow saber quickly chopped down, and a kasi sound rang out. The spirit weapon that person used to block was instantly split in half. The lunar shadow saber did not stop as it continued to descend, chopping that person in half from head to toe. Looking at the 2 people at the side, Xiao Chen did not stop at all. His movements were like flowing water as he executed the rushing thunder second chain chop, taking advantage of the situation. Xiao Chen's aura rose to its peak. The feeling he gave off now was like the god of thunder. The rushing thunder second chain chop that he had accumulated energy for 4 moves was executed. The force contained in the saber had reached its peak. Its speed was also at its peak, making it impossible for anyone to block it. Shwa! The 2 people at the side were cleanly cut into 2 halves. The flickering electric light on the blade charred the 2 corpses black from the electric shock. There are still 3 left. Xiao Chen withdrew his saber and stood upright. The aura on his body slowly dissipated. At this moment, the 3 people were already scared out of their wits. They wanted to run but they did not dare to. They were afraid that Xuanhuan would settle the score with them later. If that happened, they would not have a good time in Biyun Peak. His essence should be almost exhausted, there is no need to be afraid. The 3 of them comforted each other and rushed at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and his body suddenly became blurry like flowing water. The lunar shadow saber in his hand split into 3 afterimages, and his speed instantly doubled. This is the 3 flowing cloud images. How does he know it? This was a secret technique that only the true inheritors of Biyun Peak could learn. After it reached great perfection, it had the might of an earth-ranked martial technique. Now that Xiaoqin executed it, the three of them could not understand. Caught off guard, Xiaoqin moved like flowing water. He left a horrifying wound on each of them, causing blood to flow. Interesting, Xiaoqin thought to himself. He did not expect the three flowing cloud images to have such might when imitating it with the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula. It was as gentle and silent as flowing water, but it had the momentum of a surging river. It flowed without end and could move at will, making it hard to grasp. This was the essence of the three flowing cloud images. After executing the three flowing cloud images, Xiaoqin suddenly comprehended something. Sudden comprehension was a wondrous state that could only be discovered and not sought. Xiaoqin completely forgot about the situation in his surroundings. He was immersed in the state of the three flowing cloud images. Using the Battle Sage Origins changing character formula, Xiaoqin continuously simulated the three flowing cloud images. His entire body seemed to have turned into a small trickling river, flowing continuously. The river water slowly became turbulent, turning into a gushing river. It surged forward and created countless waves. That's not right, this is not the feeling that the three flowing cloud images want. Xiaoqin shook his head and his footwork started to change. The gushing river slowly calmed down, turning into a pool of calm seawater. There were no ripples on the surface of the sea, it was as smooth as a mirror. The clouds in the sky moved quickly in the sea, it was like there was another sky here. The water under the sea flowed slowly. The huge rocks that were as tall as mountains were silently eroded by the water, turning into small depressions. Xiaoqin suddenly woke up. When he looked at his surroundings, he could not help but be startled. He had actually walked 100 meters without realizing it. The three Biyun Peak disciples were also dragged over by Xiaoqin. There was not a single part of their skin that was unscathed. They were covered in wounds of varying depths. They could not be any more dead. Wherever Xiaoqin passed by, a 1-meter-wide gully appeared. It was like flowing water had flowed through it. It was so smooth that there were no ripples at all. Xianxia looked at all this in astonishment. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he muttered, "This is the state of perfection like water. Even my father has not reached this state." Taking advantage of the moment Xianxia was distracted, Lu Suifeng shouted and the saber light on his saber sword. As the saber light approached, Xianxia felt a dangerous aura. He quickly recovered his wits and swung his saber to block this attack. Xiaoqin took a step forward and stared at Xianxia, who was fighting. Yan Tianzheng, who was beside him, had already recovered and was struggling to stand up. Dragon seizing hand. Xiaoqin did not even bother looking at him. A huge black palm appeared from nowhere. He clenched his fingers and turned them into a huge fist. The ground trembled and Yan Tianzheng was smashed into meat paste. Xiaoqin had a faint smile on his face as he walked towards Xianxia. He used his spiritual sense to form a huge deity in the air. That deity opened its eyes. Its gaze was like a torch as it tore through the air and stared at Xianxia. This was a deity that was once imitated by an ancient sage. Naturally, Xiaoqin's spiritual sense was not as strong as a sage's. However, it was more than enough to deal with Xianxia. Xianxia, who was fighting with Lu Suifeng and Chu Xingyun, felt a formless pressure. It was like a pair of eyes pierced through time and entered his mind. As Xiaoqin got closer, the pressure slowly increased. He felt like his heartbeat was synchronized with Xiaoqin's footsteps. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of his heartbeat became louder and louder, like it was going to jump out of his chest at any moment. Xianxia thought to himself, what's going on? That person is just an inferior grade martial master. There is no need to panic, I need to remain calm. Although he was doing his best to remain calm, it was like his limbs were bound by something. Lu Suifeng took advantage of this opportunity to leave many wounds on Xianxia's body. Xiaoqin did not make a move. He simply stood quietly at the side and continuously focused his spiritual sense on that deity. Golden halos appeared behind the deity that could not be seen with the naked eye. The golden light was very dazzling and resplendent. Suddenly, a golden light shot out from the deity's eyes. The golden light seeped into Xianxia's soul. Xianxia's body trembled and his eyes opened wide. His body was actually temporarily restricted. After the deity shot out this golden light, it immediately shattered. Xiaoqin took advantage of this opportunity and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. His body turned into a flood dragon and soared into the sky. He created a cloud of dust as he passed by Lu Suifeng and Chu Xingyun. In an instant he arrived before Xianxia and hacked at his chest. Boom! There was a loud sound of metal clashing. This fellow actually wore a superior grade earth-ranked battle armor on his chest. Xiao Chen's saber strike did not kill him in one strike. However, the huge force gathered on the saber sent xianxia flying. Blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. It was clear that he had suffered significant internal injuries. Xianxia came to his senses. Seeing that he had lost the upper hand, he turned around to leave. Trying to run? Leave the ice crystal flower behind. Lu Suifeng roared angrily and flew up. The small saber in his hand spun continuously in his palm. He casually tossed it out, and the spinning small saber caused the surrounding air currents to blow up an intense hurricane. The hurricane rose from the ground and instantly engulfed Xianxia. Miserable cries came from within. When the hurricane stopped, Xianxia fell heavily from the sky, his body covered in wounds. Xiaoqin went forward and removed the universe ring from his hand. Xiaoqin gently touched it and a large number of inferior-grade spirit stones fell out. There were also many good quality medicinal pills and gold notes. Xiaoqin found the ice crystal flower and handed it to Lu Suifeng. Lu Suifeng revealed a faint smile and happily received it. Seeing at least 100 inferior-grade spirit stones on the ground, the smile on Lu Suifeng's face became even wider. He asked Xiaoqin, "What do we do with these spirit stones?" His meaning was very clear. He wanted to split the spoils. However, Xuanhuan was here, so Lu Suifeng could not say it out loud. He wanted Xiaoqin to say it. Chapter 161. How could Xiaoqin not know what he meant? He cursed in his heart and smiled faintly. What else can we do? Split it among the three of us. When Xianxia, who was severely injured by Qingyun Peak's secret technique, saw that Xiaoqin wanted to split his spirit stones, he scolded angrily, "You bunch of paupers, trash. Don't touch my spirit stones, otherwise Xiaoqin could not be bothered with him. He stepped on his face and interrupted him. After that, he stomped on his face a few times. Withdrawing his foot, Xiaoqin slowly placed the lunar shadow saber on Xianxia's throat. The danger of death frightened Xianxia until he turned pale. "Don't kill me, my father is the peak master of Biyun Peak. He is already a peak martial king. If you kill me you will not be able to escape." Xuanhuan advised, "Young Master Yi, we cannot kill Xianxia. If we kill him we will have no way out." Xiaoqin found it funny. Even at this moment she is still talking about not killing Xianxia. If I let Xianxia go, could it be that I am waiting for him to recover and seek trouble for me? Just as Xiaoqin was deep in thought, a dagger flashing with a cold light suddenly appeared in Xianxia's sleeves. He got up and stabbed at Xiaoqin. Xianxia seemed to have prepared this move for a long time. It was incomparably fast. Although Xiaoqin was deep in thought, he kept his guard up. Just as the cold light was about to reach him, he quickly dodged to the side, dodging the killing move that Xianxia had prepared for a long time. Wuxia. Seeing Xiaoqin dodge, Xianxia instantly changed his target. His right hand moved quickly and the dagger stabbed into Xuanhuan's body. It dyed her pure white clothes red. Xianxia did not stop and quickly let go, pushing Xuanhuan away. There were still a few flame cloud colts there. It was an opportunity for him to escape. Xiaoqin's expression turned cold. A huge black hand appeared out of nowhere. Just as Xianxia was about to mount a flame cloud colt, it grabbed him tightly. Xiaoqin pulled back with his right hand, causing Xianxia to scream as he was pulled back. With a loud bang, Xianxia landed heavily on the ground. Xiaoqin went up and stepped on Xianxia's face, continuously stepping on it. After a while, Xianxia's handsome face was badly mutilated from being stepped on. He groaned in pain. "Don't kill me." Xiaoqin could not be bothered with him. A cold light flashed on the lunar shadow saber and he hacked at Xianxia's neck. When Xuanhuan, who was in Lu Suifeng's embrace, saw this, she said weakly, "Yichen, don't kill him, you can't. Were all women so narrow-minded? You nearly died, yet you still say not to kill me." Xiaoqin smiled coldly to himself. He paused for a moment before continuing to chop down. Every true inheritor of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has a trace of qi stored in the main hall. If you kill him they will investigate your identity immediately. The Divine Saber Camp will chase you to the ends of the world, Xuanhuan said anxiously. There is such a thing? Xiaoqin knew a little about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Divine Saber Camp. It represented the most elite force of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Everyone in there was an expert and they had a lot of combat experience. Xiaoqin felt very depressed. He spun his saber and the back of the lunar shadow saber hacked at Xianxin's neck, knocking him out. When Xuanhuan saw the situation, her pale face relaxed. She took out a porcelain bottle from her bosom and handed it to Xiaoqin. "There is a medicinal pill in there. Feed it to him later and it will erase all his memories of today." Xiaoqin was slightly stunned. He received the medicinal pill and pried open Song Qinhe's mouth. Then he ruthlessly shoved the medicinal pill down Song Qinhe's throat. Lu Suifeng looked at the wound on Chu Xinyun's chest. He did not know what to do. He said anxiously, "Yi Qin, what should we do? The dagger is still stuck in Xinyun's body. Should we pull it out?" Xiaoqin frowned slightly. He lowered his body and looked at it carefully. Song Qinhe's move was very ferocious, it was very strong. Song Qinhe had stabbed the entire dagger in. Fortunately, the situation was urgent and he did not injure any vital points. The dagger was stuck in Xinyun's left shoulder. Lu Suifeng had already sealed a few acupoints nearby, temporarily stopping the bleeding. "Put this medicinal pill in first. I will try to see if I can pull it out now." Xiaoqin took out a blood-replenishing pill from the universe ring and handed it to Chu Xinyun. Chu Xinyun received the blood-replenishing pill and a strange light flashed in her eyes. She was not in a rush to put it in. Instead she asked, "Yi Qin, did you refine this yourself?" Xiaoqin was currently trying to figure out how to pull out the dagger stuck in her left chest. He did not have the time to answer her question in detail, so he just nodded his head vaguely. Xiaoqin turned his spiritual sense into a thin thread and sent it into the wound. He saw that there were countless tiny hooks on both sides of the dagger. They were tightly embedded in Chu Xinyun's flesh. Xiaoqin took in a deep breath of cold air. His impression of Chu Xinyun changed slightly. The hooks were tightly embedded in the wound. It was easy to imagine what kind of pain it would bring to her. Chu Xinyun was in such great pain, yet she was able to remain so calm. It was not simple. Lu Suifeng, who was at the side, asked, "Yi Qin, are you confident? This dagger has to be pulled out as soon as possible. Otherwise, the longer it drags on, the more serious it will be." Xiaoqin's expression turned grave. Naturally, he understood this principle. However, he was not a professional. Although he had his own ideas, he was not 100% sure that it would work. "There are many hooks on this dagger, they are already embedded in the flesh. Furthermore, the wound is very deep. I'm not very confident." After hesitating for a while, Xiaoqin decided to speak the truth. Xiaoqin placed the jade cloud pill in his mouth. The refreshing medicinal energy turned into a cooling sensation as it gathered at the wound and slowly circulated around. Chu Xinyun felt the pain lessen significantly. She revealed a warm smile as she said, "I believe in you. Do it." Lu Suifeng also said from the side, "Yi Qin, do it. Be decisive, don't drag this out." This Lu Suifeng made it sound simple. This concerns a human life. How can I not be cautious? Xiaoqin thought to himself. Xiaoqin took out a piece of wood from the universe ring and handed it to Chu Xinyun. "Here, put it in your mouth." "What is this for?" Chu Xinyun asked suspiciously as she received the piece of wood. Xiaoqin was a little speechless. He did not expect that she would not understand such a simple principle. He explained, "Although I know you are very good at enduring, the instant I pull the dagger out, it will be extremely painful. I'm afraid you will not be able to resist biting off your own tongue." When Chu Xinyun heard how horrifying Xiaoqin's explanation was, she was somewhat afraid. She slowly placed the piece of wood in her mouth. When Xiaoqin saw the situation, he smiled faintly and said, "Can I ask Miss Xinyun a few questions? Just shake your head or nod your head to answer me." Chu Xinyun nodded her head. Xiaoqin asked, "Miss Xinyun's double eyelids, are they natural or acquired? Are you born with one eye and you shake your head the other day?" What a strange question. Chu Xinyun's face was filled with doubt. However, she still nodded her head. Xiaoqin smiled faintly and continued to ask, "Then Xinyun is really a natural beauty. There should be many guys chasing after her in the heavenly saber pavilion, right?" A blush appeared on Chu Xinyun's pale face. She looked like a pure little red flower in the depths of the mountains. She looked exceptionally pure. Although she was embarrassed, Chu Xinyun still nodded her head. Xiaoqin smiled faintly and continued asking, "With so many pursuers, has Miss Xinyun taken a fancy to any of them? Have you ever had a passionate relationship with one of them?" Xiaoqin's questions were getting more and more embarrassing. Chu Xinyun's neck was already red. This was the first time someone of the opposite sex was so direct, asking her such a question in front of her. She shook her head to indicate that she had not. Xiaoqin continued to ask such questions, slowly diverting Chu Xinyun's attention. His right hand had already unknowingly grasped the dagger hilt. Xiaoqin was extremely focused. He focused all his spiritual sense on the wound where the dagger was inserted. He carefully observed the taut flesh on the barb of the dagger. It's time, Xiaoqin thought to himself. It's time to be ruthless. Xiaoqin had a smile on his face as he said very sincerely, if that is the case, then Miss Xinyun has no experience with men. What kind of question is this? Lu Suifeng's jaw dropped. He did not expect Xiaoqin to ask such a perverted question. Chu Xinyun's mind also went blank. Her eyes revealed anger as she stared at Xiaoqin. It was like she wanted to cut him into 1,000 pieces. However, Xiaoqin could not be bothered with her. The instant he asked the question, he focused all his attention on the wound. He did not dare to be distracted. Xiaoqin's spiritual sense could feel Chu Xinyun's emotions fluctuating rapidly. The flesh on the barb of the dagger started to contract rapidly. Shua. Xiaoqin took advantage of this opportunity. When the barb of the dagger was completely squeezed out, he decisively pulled the dagger out. Blood spurted out and splattered all over Xiaoqin's face. Xiaoqin quickly pressed on the acupoints in front of the wound. Only then did the blood stop spurting out. Looking at the smooth dagger, aside from blood, there was no flesh on it. Xiaoqin smiled in satisfaction. Chu Xinyun had not recovered her wits yet. She was distracted earlier and had almost forgotten about the dagger in her wound. The sudden intense pain caused her to frown. Her facial features scrunched up as she bit the piece of wood in her mouth. After a long time, she finally caught her breath and spat out the piece of wood in her mouth. Thinking of the earlier question, she could not care about her weak body. She sent a slap at Xiaoqin and scolded, "Hooligan!" Xiaoqin smiled faintly and easily grabbed Chu Xinyun's wrist. He used his palm to strike her neck heavily, causing her to faint. Lu Suifeng asked anxiously, "Yi Qin, what are you doing?" Xiaoqin explained, "She is extremely weak now. Her body will not be able to take it if she gets angry like that. It is best for her to rest first." Actually, Xiaoqin felt a little guilty in his heart. He was afraid that Chu Xinyun would continue to cause trouble. Oh. Lu Suifeng nodded and suddenly remembered the earlier matter. He asked hesitantly, "Brother Yi Qin, what did you mean by that question? I have to explain this matter to him. Otherwise there will be a big misunderstanding." Xiaoqin said, "The design of this dagger is very vicious. There are barbs all over it. They are already deeply embedded into Chu Xinyun's flesh." Although she did not cry out, her body was actually in a state of high tension. Her muscles were very tense. If Xiaoqin could not think of a way to distract her, she would bleed twice as much when she draws the dagger. Chapter 162. After Xiaoqin said this, he paused for a while. He took out the dagger and said, "The surface of the dagger would not be as smooth as it is now. At the very least, a large piece of flesh would come out. I'm afraid she would be in so much pain that she would bite through the wood." Lu Suifeng thought for a while and felt that what Xiaoqin said was reasonable. His expression turned warmer as he said, "Yi Qin, thank you. Not only did you help me retrieve the ice crystal flower, you even saved Chu Xinyun. Xinyun must still be misunderstanding you. I'll help you explain later." Xiaoqin smiled faintly and patted Lu Suifeng's shoulder. "Don't say that. I received so much care from elder sister Ryue in Qingyun Peak. Doing this is something I should do. As for explaining or not, there is no need. After all, her situation is more or less recovered. I am not familiar with her, so it is fine to take the blame." After Xiaoqin spoke, he took out a blood-replenishing pill and a roll of bandages from his universe ring. This bandage was something he had bought for himself after he was injured by the ice ape last time, just in case. The bandages were coated with good quality medicine. They were much more effective than ordinary bandages. Xiaoqin handed the bandages and medicinal pills to Lu Suifeng and said, "Go and bandage her wounds." Lu Suifeng received the bandages and medicinal pills and gestured around Chu Xinyun a few times. However, he did not know how to do it. After a while, he said with a flushed face, "Brother Yi Qin, you should do it. I really have no experience in this." "Damn, you just told me to be more decisive. Now that it's your turn, you are shrugging." Xiaoqin said helplessly, "Aren't you chasing after her? This is such a good opportunity to show off, yet you are giving it to me. Are you kidding me?" Lu Suifeng said hesitantly, "Men and women should not touch each other. I'm afraid that when Xinyun wakes up, she will blame me." Normally Lu Suifeng was very carefree. Now he was acting like this. Xiaoqin felt impatient in his heart. He took the medicinal pills and bandages back. Selah. This was not the first time Xiaoqin did this. He was very familiar with the process. In an instant, he tore off a long strip of the clothes around Chu Xinyun's wound. A large patch of snow-white skin was revealed. Xiaoqin had already trained his mental fortitude long ago. He took out a blood-replenishing pill and crushed it before applying it on her skin. Then he lifted Chu Xinyun's arm and bandaged it up. Done. After tying the bandage, Xiaoqin got up and said faintly. After doing all this, Xiaoqin started to collect the spoils of war. He actually found another 50 inferior-grade spirit stones on Yan Tianjing's body. In addition to the inferior-grade spirit stones from the 7 Biyun Peak disciples, Xiaoqin had a total of more than 200 inferior-grade spirit stones. When Xiaoqin was tidying up Song Qinhe's universe ring, aside from some medicinal pills and spirit stones, he unexpectedly discovered the 3 flowing cloud images martial technique. Xiaoqin gave half of the spirit stones to Lu Suifeng. However, Lu Suifeng insisted on not taking it. He said that he was already very satisfied with the ice crystal flower. Furthermore, these people were all killed by Xiaoqin. It was not reasonable for him to take more spirit stones. Xiaoqin was helpless. He symbolically gave him 10 spirit stones before Lu Suifeng was willing to take it. After that, Xiaoqin started to clean up the battlefield. He burned all the corpses on the ground with his purple thunder true fire. When Xiaoqin saw the flame cloud colts not far away, he noticed that these spirit beasts did not scatter. Xiaoqin was afraid that he might have left some traces behind. So he could only kill all these valuable flame cloud colts. After looking at the unconscious Song Qianhe on the ground, Xiaoqin revealed a look of disgust. He kicked him and sent him hanging from a tree branch at the side. After doing all this, Xiaoqin walked over to Lu Suifeng and said, Chu Xinyun needs to pick those herbs. There is no time to waste. I will help her pick them. When she wakes up, we will leave immediately. Lu Suifeng thought for a while and said, I don't remember very clearly. She only thought I said it once. There was ice heart grass, hidden frost flower, frost fruit, and there seemed to be purple snow lotus. They were all rank 5 herbs. They were not hard to find. Xiaoqin thought for a while and said, Take care of her first. When I return, we will leave immediately. After Xiaoqin spoke, he quickly left the place, disappearing from Lu Suifeng's vision. After a while, he stopped on top of a large tree. The spirit core in Xiaoqin's spiritual sense quickly extended out. Instantly, all the surrounding herbs appeared in Xiaoqin's mind. There were too many herbs. Xiaoqin started to give instructions, eliminating all the herbs that were not rank 5. After that, he only left about 100 rank 5 herbs in his sea of consciousness. This way it would be much easier to find them. Xiaoqin opened his eyes and revealed a faint smile. He had already found where the ice heart grass was distributed. There were rank 4 spirit beasts, frost snakes, in that area. Xiaoqin thought for a while and came up with a countermeasure. It was just a rank 4 spirit beast, there was no need to spend too much effort on it. On the other side, as Xiaoqin was doing his best to pick the herbs, Chu Xinyun woke up earlier than expected. The main reason was because Xiaoqin had underestimated Chu Xinyun's strength. Furthermore, because her body was too weak, he did not deal a heavy blow. Chu Xinyun slowly woke up. She felt dizzy. After a long time, she slowly woke up. She looked at the bandages on her chest. Her pretty face immediately turned red. She said to Lu Suifeng, Suifeng, who tore my clothes? Lu Suifeng was startled. He was afraid that Chu Xinyun would misunderstand him. He quickly distanced himself. Brother Yi Qin was the one who tied it up for you. I'm not very good at this. Chu Xinyun revealed a sullen expression as she struggled to sit up. She leaned against a tree and said, This Yi Qin? I originally thought he was just a smooth talker. I did not expect him to be such a lecher. He does not care about propriety or honor. No wonder senior sister Lung scolded him as a lecher. Lu Suifeng felt ashamed in his heart. Seeing that the situation was getting out of hand, he quickly repeated what Xiaoqin had explained to him to Chu Xinyun. After Chu Xinyun heard it, she thought about it for a long time. She knew that what Xiaoqin said made sense. Knowing that he had misunderstood Xiaoqin, he had an awkward expression on his face. However, he did not want to admit defeat. He said, That doesn't mean he could just casually tear a girl's clothes. Furthermore, he said such vulgar words. Bang! Xiaoqin's figure suddenly landed on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. He was surprised to see Chu Xinyun awake. He said in astonishment, When did you wake up? You need to sleep for at least 10 hours. Otherwise your body will take a long time to recover. Seeing Xiaoqin suddenly appear, Chu Xinyun's face turned even redder. Xiaoqin looked at Lu Suifeng and the two of them exchanged glances. Xiaoqin understood what was going on. He could not help but sigh in his heart. This matter was nothing in his original world. However, it was so troublesome in this world. He tossed a bottle of blood-replenishing pills to Chu Xinyun and said, If you insist on not sleeping, then take this medicine for 3 days. Take it orally and apply it externally. Take it once a day. After Xiaoqin spoke, he waved his hand and passed the herbs he had picked to Xuanhuan. A silver warship flew out from his right eye and he jumped onto it. Lu Suifeng supported Xuanhuan and followed. When Xiaoqin saw the two of them board, he immediately controlled the warship to fly towards the entrance of Evil Wind Valley. After a while, Xuanhuan organized the herbs. She discovered that they were all the herbs she needed. Not a single one was missing. She walked behind Xiaoqin and thanked him in a soft voice. Xiaoqin smiled embarrassedly and said, "There is no need to thank me. We are even now." He thought about his actions carefully and felt that there were indeed a lot of things that were not appropriate. Although his actions were done with good intentions, it was inappropriate to say those words to a girl. This was probably the reason why Xiaoqin helped her pick the herbs. In the end, he wanted to make it up to her. "That's right, Suifeng. Are our 3 horses fine?" Xiaoqin changed the topic. Lu Suifeng said, "They are fine. If we leave, the people there will continue to take care of them for us. When we have time, we can come back to collect them." The journey was silent. Xiaoqin did not say anything after that. He piloted the silver warship and raised its speed to the limit. It turned into a silver bolt of lightning as it flew through the sky. When they could see Lingyun mountain range, Xiaoqin slowed down. There were countless restrictions of various sizes in the sky above the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. If it were not for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's warship and spirit pet, they would not be able to barge in even if they had 9 lives. Naturally, Xiaoqin would not make such a mistake. When they neared the foot of the mountain, they slowly landed the silver warship. Then the 3 of them headed for Lingyun mountain range. After entering the mountain, Lu Suifeng wanted to send Xuanhuan back. Xiaoqin returned to Qingyun Peak alone. At this moment it was nearing dusk. By the time Xiaoqin rushed to Qingyun Peak, night had already fallen. Xiaoqin had experienced a lot of things today. He felt incredibly fatigued. After he entered his room, he immediately went to sleep. In the middle of the night, Xiaoqin vaguely heard a series of violent knocks on his door, startling Xiaoqin awake. Xiaoqin opened his eyes unwillingly. He was in a bad mood as he opened the door. He called out, "Who is it? Are you not letting me sleep?" "Wuxia." A sharp killing chi covered the sky and earth. It startled Xiaoqin to the point where he was no longer sleepy. He suddenly woke up and quickly retreated. A small saber flashing with a cold light brushed past his nose. "Are you awake? Do you still want to sleep?" Naturally, aside from Lu Riyue, there was no one else who could use such a valiant method to chase away his sleepiness. Xiaoqin looked at Lu Riyue, who had a cold expression and a grave expression. He asked carefully, "Elder sister Riyue, what happened? Why did you wake me up in the middle of the night?" Lu Riyue's eyes turned slightly red. She said angrily, "You still have the cheek to say that? After such a big thing happened, you did not even say anything to me before lying down and sleeping. Do you not respect me, your master?" Xiaoqin had never seen Lu Riyue so angry before. Although she had a bad temper in the past, it was different from today's situation. Aside from being angry, Lu Riyue also seemed a little sad. Her tone was filled with disappointment. Xiaoqin quickly thought of why Lu Riyue was angry. He explained, "Elder sister Riyue, I feel that I have already dealt with the matters in Evil Wind Valley. There are no more problems." Chapter 163. Suddenly, a pig's head appeared beside Xiaoqin. It said in a trembling voice, "Yi Qin quickly apologized to my sister. She knows everything." The sudden appearance of a pig's head startled Xiaoqin. After he looked carefully, he discovered that it was a human face that had been beaten swollen. Xiaoqin looked for a long time but could not recognize this person. "Who are you?" "I'm Lu Suifeng." Lu Suifeng's mouth was swollen as he stuttered. He was crying in his heart. Even Xiaoqin could not recognize him. When he went out tomorrow, it would be over for him. Xiaoqin felt ashamed in his heart. He tried to explain for Lu Suifeng, "Elder sister Riyue, actually, for the sake of retrieving the ice crystal flower, that was my idea. It has nothing to do with brother Suifeng." Lu Riyue shook her head, "You are not in the wrong. The one in the wrong is Suifeng. He was careless in the past and exposed his whereabouts. Furthermore, he even brought an unrelated person with him. We had to obtain the ice crystal flower. Even if we had to offend Biyun Peak, we had to get it back. You were able to help Qingyun Peak retrieve the lost ice crystal flower. Not only were you not in the wrong, you also performed a meritorious deed. However, I do not understand. After such a big thing happened, why did you not tell me immediately? Do you know how serious this matter is?" Xiaoqin felt guilty in his heart. He said in a soft voice, "I thought that after Song Qinhe consumed the medicinal pill and destroyed all the evidence, it would not be a big deal. Lu Ryu smiled coldly. You are too naive. That little vixen is the same. Let's not talk about whether there is an antidote for a medicinal pill that causes a person to lose their memories for a day. Even if there is no antidote, he will only forget today's memories. If he had planned this from the start, even if he forgot today's events, he would be able to deduce who snatched the ice crystal flower based on where he was. Xiao Chen's back broke out in a cold sweat. Why did he think of this? He thought that as long as Song Qianhe forgot today's events, there would not be any problems. Now it looks like he thought too simply. Lingyun Mountain Range, Biyun Peak, a place with extremely dense spiritual energy. This was the peak where all the spiritual energy in Biyun Peak gathered. It was also one of the 7 branches of the underground spirit vein in the entire Lingyun Mountain Range. It could be said to be one of the places with the most abundant spiritual energy in the Great Qin Nation. Cultivating on it would allow one to absorb spiritual energy 4 or 5 times faster than a regular person. However, there were only a few people in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion who could enjoy such treatment. An old man sat cross-legged on a boulder at the peak of the mountain. The spiritual qi in the surroundings was like a mist, constantly pouring into his body. Wisps of green smoke rose from his forehead. This person was the peak master of Biyun Peak, Song Quebec. His cultivation had already reached the peak of Martial King, and he already had 1 foot in the Martial Monarch realm. 20 years ago, many of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's elders had died. An expert like Song Ke was now one of the top 10 in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Bo, bo, bo. The sound of hurried footsteps could be heard, and a figure quickly rushed over from the foot of the mountain. He carried a thick saber on his back. When he was about 10 meters away from the old man, he slowly stopped. He had an extremely nervous expression on his face. When Song Ke felt this person, he slowly opened his eyes. There was a gleam in his eyes as he looked at the person. He frowned slightly and said unhappily, Gong Ming, didn't I tell you not to disturb me for the next half a month? This person called Gong Ming was Song Ke's last disciple. Although he was not a true inheritor of Biyun Peak, his status and position were much lower than a true inheritor's. In the entire Biyun Peak, aside from the elders, he was the only one who dared to disturb Song Ke's cultivation at this moment. Zhao Gongming felt somewhat nervous. He said softly, replying to Master, someone from the main hall sent news earlier. They said that the aura of the life medallion that junior brother left in the main hall is extremely weak. It seems, Song Ke's expression turned grave. He said sullenly, seems like what? Zhao Gongming braced himself and said, it seems like his life could be in danger at any moment. Bang! Song Ke suddenly stood up and the rock he was sitting on suddenly shattered, turning into countless fragments. When the wind blew, the fragments turned into powder and were carried away by the wind. A surging killing intent flashed past in a flash. Song Ke quickly hid his emotions and said, when did this happen? Where did Qianhe go? Who did he go with? Tell me in detail. Before Zhao Gongming came, he had already made some inquiries. At this moment he reported everything in detail. Yesterday junior brother brought 6 Biyun Peak disciples. They were all medial grade martial grandmasters and above to Evil Wind Valley. The news I heard was that Lu Ryu needed the ice crystal flower in Evil Wind Valley to use as an ingredient to save people. I am not sure where junior brother got this news from, but he brought people to Evil Wind Valley in advance. Since then there has been no news of him. A cold light flashed in Song Ke's eyes. He said coldly, Lu Ryu, you better pray that nothing happens to her. Otherwise I will destroy Qingyun Peak completely. Come, let's go to Saber City. In Saber City City Lord's residence, Gu Yunbin carefully listened to Zhao Gongming's narration. After that he said to Song Ke, Brother Song, don't be anxious. I will arrange for people to search for your son. Song Ke cupped his hands and said, I will have to trouble City Lord Gu. There were spies from Saber City within a radius of a few hundred kilometers. Going to Evil Wind Valley to find a person was not a difficult matter for Gu Yunbin. After 2 hours there was a result. An outer disciple quickly walked in and said, reporting to City Lord, we have found senior brother Song in Evil Wind Valley. Should we bring him back? Song Ke said, don't bring him back. Bring me to the scene immediately. I want to see who is so daring. In Evil Wind Valley, Song Ke looked at Song Qianhe who had been dragged down from the tree. Rage burned in his eyes. Song Qianhe's face was covered in shoe prints. He did not look like a human anymore. The few Biyun Peak disciples beside him quickly cleaned up the blood on Song Qianhe's body. Then they fed him medicinal pills and bandaged him. Then they used their essence to treat his injuries. After a while Song Qianhe slowly woke up. When he saw the people in front of him, he did not understand the situation. He asked curiously, "Father, senior brother, why are you here? Where am I? Damn, why is it so painful?" The moment Song Qianhe said that, he discovered that his lips were in extreme pain. Only then did he realize that he was severely injured. There were bandages all over his body. What's going on? Where are Xiao Jiao and the others? How did I become like this? Who did this? Song Qianhe did his best to remember. However, he could not remember how he became like this. Forget worry pill. Gu Yunbin and Song Ke exchanged glances. They both had an answer in their hearts. The two of them walked behind Song Qianhe and stretched out their right hands. Pure and surging essence entered Song Qianhe's body. Oh. The essence moved quickly in Song Qianhe's body. Soon, it found the medicinal pill in his dantian. The two of them exerted force at the same time. Song Qianhe opened his mouth and spat out a green liquid onto the ground. Gu Yunbin withdrew his hand and said, "If another day had passed, the medicinal energy of this forget worry pill would have completely permeated his body. At that time, even if a martial sage made a move, it would be useless. Since your young master is fine, I will take my leave first." In the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, only one person had the forget worry pill. The matter of Song Qianhe being attacked was incomparably complicated. It involved the internal strife of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Gu Yunbin did not want to get involved in this matter, so he took his leave first. Song Ke did not stop him. He said, "This song owes the city lord a favor. I will repay it in the future." After Gu Yunbin led the people of Saber City away, Song Qianhe completely remembered what happened yesterday. His eyes were filled with hatred. "Yi Qin, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death." In Qingyun Peak, Xiao Qin had not slept since he was woken up last night. The pig-faced Lu Suifeng beside him said, "Sis, it is not as serious as you think, right?" Lu Rua smiled coldly, "I think you have been bewitched by that woman. You have lost your intelligence. Just wait, the people from Biyun Peak will definitely come before sunset." Xiao Qin felt slightly worried in his heart. This matter was mostly his idea. He said, "Elder sister Rua, if these people really come, you can push all the responsibility to me. I am well aware of it. At worst, I will just leave the Heavenly Saber Pavilion." When Lu Rua heard this, she smiled gently. Her charming face revealed a gentle expression. "Don't you want to learn listening to the sword and communicating with it?" When Xiao Qin heard this, he was stunned. During his time in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, he had asked around in his spare time. His understanding of listening to the sword and communicating with it had deepened. He discovered that it was almost impossible to grasp listening to the sword and communicating with it. Lu Rua took the lunar shadow saber from Xiao Qian's hands and drew it out with a huang dang sound. A cold glint flowed on the black blade, and traces of electricity slowly leaped about. She pointed the saber at the sky. When the sunlight shone on the saber, it gave off a faint glow. The streamlined saber was filled with a boundless beauty at this moment. Lu Rua looked at it seriously and muttered, "You are doing this for this saber, right? If you just leave, don't you want to undo the seal in the saber?" Xiao Qin thought of the arrogance sealed in the saber. He felt dispirited. If he could not learn listening to the sword and communicating with it, he might not be able to undo the seal in his life. "You don't have to worry about the matter of Biyun Peak. I said it before, the fault lies with Suifeng, not you. You have done well. I only resent you for not discussing such a big matter with me." "Elder sister Rua, Xiao Qin felt that the words were stuck in his throat, but he could not say them. Lu Rua smiled brilliantly. Her pretty face was like a flower. She was like a fairy from the mountains, filled with a special charm. "Don't say any more, I forgive you. Remember, don't do it again. Today I will borrow your lunar shadow saber." Lu Rua swung the lunar shadow saber in the air. The saber buzzed continuously in the air. Suddenly, it released an intense electric light. It was as resplendent as the sun, dazzling and dazzling. At this moment, the rank 6 Thunder Rock demonic core merged with the saber, broke through its previous restraints. The aura of a peak martial king spread out without restraint. An ear-piercing thunder roar came from the saber. It was like a thunder rock leaped out from the saber and roared angrily. A visible ripple spread out in the air. Xiao Qin and Lu Suifeng, who were behind Lu Rua, felt a huge pressure. It was like their shoulders were bearing a weight of 10,000 tons. It was incomparably painful. Chapter 164. This is a superior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Lu Suifeng exclaimed in astonishment. This was a true superior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. It was only a step away from becoming a subdivine weapon. The Qianwu continent had not seen a heaven-ranked spirit weapon for several hundred years. He did not expect to see a heaven-ranked spirit weapon here. Furthermore, it was a superior grade heaven-ranked spirit weapon. Xiao Qin's heart was filled with shock as well. He could not understand how Lu Riyue was able to recover the lunar shadow saber to heaven-ranked. Lu Riyue held the lunar shadow saber and stood there proudly. Her clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. She looked down the mountain and said indifferently, "Let's go, they are here." Lu Riyue sheathed her saber and the aura of the lunar shadow saber disappeared. She led Xiao Qin and Lu Suifeng down the mountain quickly. No one said anything, their expressions were extremely grave. When they reached the foot of the mountain, they saw a group of cultivators rushing towards Qingyun Peak aggressively. They did not hide their killing chi at all. They left a trail of dust behind them, startling countless birds. When they got closer, everyone could clearly see the appearance of the people. The person leading them was the last disciple of Biyun Peak's peak master, Song Ke, Zhao Gongming. Behind him were several Biyun Peak elders. They were all martial saints. Song Qianhe, whose head was wrapped like a mummy, was in the middle of the group. Xiao Qin counted carefully. Including Zhao Gongming, there were 7 martial saints and 10 martial grandmasters. Among them, Zhao Gongming was the strongest. He was a medial grade martial saint. The other martial saints were only inferior grade martial saints. It was not strange for there to be so many inferior grade martial saints. After reaching martial saint, every step forward was extremely difficult. Many people would remain in the inferior grade martial saint realm for their entire lives. Hence, people like Lu Riyue who reached peak martial saint at the age of 24 were terrifying. Even so, Xiao Qin was worried for Lu Riyue. There were so many martial saints. Although their cultivations were lower than Lu Riyue's, their numbers could make up for the difference. Song Ke hid himself in the clouds in the sky. He looked at Lu Riyue and the others with a sinister gaze. Song Qianhe's life was not in danger. Furthermore, there was no concrete evidence to prove that the dead Biyun Peak disciples were killed by Xiao Qin and Lu Suifeng. As a peak lord, it was not suitable for him to show himself at this moment. He could just let the younger generation cause a ruckus. It would be best if they could force the one at the top of the mountain out. Song Ke looked at the towering peak of Qingyun Peak and muttered, "Old eccentric Lu has been hiding on the peak for decades. Whether he is dead or alive, he should at least come out. Right now, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is lacking in manpower. You do not wish to see a little girl become the pavilion master, right?" Song Ke's gaze pierced through the boundless space, as if he could see the peak of the mountain. Ever since the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's great tribulation 20 years ago, the old pavilion master had passed away. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion no longer had a pavilion master. The old pavilion master's daughter, Lung Liusu, became the young pavilion master. The elders' assembly managed the Heavenly Saber Pavilion together. As the saying went, a family could not go without a master, a nation could not go without a ruler. The danger of such a situation was self-evident to the development and prestige of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. However, before the old pavilion master died, he did not leave behind a clear will. Furthermore, there was more than one person in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion who was qualified to become the pavilion master. Due to all the compromises, it resulted in the current situation. The old pavilion master's daughter would inherit the position of Heavenly Saber Pavilion's pavilion master. The one who was most dissatisfied with this was Song Quebec. Although his strength was still far from those old monsters, he was still qualified to inherit the position of pavilion master. He was the youngest. That's right, he was the youngest among the peak martial kings in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He was only 50 years old. After he advanced to martial king, he would have no problem living to 200 years old. His resentment for the position of pavilion master was the strongest among all the peak lords. All along, he had been looking for an opportunity to swallow up Qingyun Peak. At that time, he would have the strength of 2 factions. He would have a greater say in the elders' assembly. Song Qianhe's pursuit of Lu Riyue was mostly due to Song Quebec. Song Ke had turned a blind eye to Song Ke's underhanded methods and acquiesced to them. Actually, Song Ke had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. If it were not for the apprehension in his heart, he would have used forceful methods long ago. Song Ke looked at the peak and entered deep thought. At the foot of the peak, Lu Riyue took the initiative to speak first. "Zhao Gongming, what are you trying to do by bringing a bunch of trash and old men here?" Before Zhao Gongming could speak, Song Qianhe, whose face was covered in bandages, said angrily, "Lu Riyue, your disciple killed 8 of my Biyun Peak disciples. According to the sect rules, you have to hand him over. Otherwise, you will be considered an accomplice." Lu Riyue frowned and a murderous intent shot out from her black eyes. She glared at Song Qianhe, scaring him into taking a few steps back. Lu Riyue mocked, "A piece of trash like you is not embarrassed to be a true inheritor of Biyun Peak. You're already like this. You can imagine how strong the ordinary disciples of Biyun Peak are. Who knows which Tom, Dick, or Harry killed them?" When Zhao Gongming saw Lu Riyue being so unyielding, he did not get angry. Instead he rejoiced. He said, "Senior Sister Lu, don't change the topic. 8 Biyun Peak disciples did die. Furthermore, junior brother Song saw them being killed by Yi Qin. As for whether he was the one who killed them or not, we will hand him over to the law enforcement hall." Lu Riyue removed the golden identity token from her waist and said in a deep voice, "Look at the identity token in my hand clearly. I am the Peak Master of Qingyun Peak, not your senior sister. Whether Biyun Peak disciples died or not, even if the law enforcement hall's people come, they will not be able to take them away from me without any evidence." Zhao Gongming smiled coldly and said, "Qingyun Peak is just a faction with only one disciple. Are you not embarrassed to use your status to suppress me?" Lu Riyue smiled. Her smile was very beautiful, causing the surrounding people to look at her. Their minds became dazed for a moment. Even if there is only one person in Qingyun Peak, it is not something trash like you can laugh at. Right after she spoke, Lu Riyue had already rushed forward. She left behind afterimages in the air and arrived before Zhao Gongming. Zhao Gongming did not panic. Instead he was secretly delighted. Even if there was no evidence, as long as Lu Riyue made the first move to injure someone, their actions this time would not leave any room for others to talk about. However, he soon stopped smiling. A resplendent light lit up and the lunar shadow saber was drawn with a huang dang sound. The aura of a rank 6 demonic beast, which was equivalent to a peak martial king, surged towards him. Even with Zhao Gongming's strength as a medial grade martial saint, his breathing actually became hurried before this overwhelming aura. His originally smooth movements became sluggish for a moment. Zhao Gongming gave up on drawing his saber. He controlled his body and quickly retreated. However, this saber was simply too fast. Furthermore, it borrowed the might of the heavenly weapon. The saber light still left a long wound in front of Zhao Gongming. The wound was not deep, but as blood spurted out, it quickly dyed the clothes in front of his chest red. The battle could start at any moment. After the remaining 7 martial saints recovered from their momentary daze, they quickly attacked Lu Riyue. This was a battle between martial saints. These martial grand masters could not interfere. Saber chi flew everywhere and figures flashed about. Xiao Chen and the others could only see some blurry figures. The range of the battle grew larger and larger. Occasionally there would be cries coming from the battlefield. An inferior grade martial saint of Biyun Peak cried out miserably as his arm flew off. Everyone was fighting with all their might. Lu Riyue did not show any mercy. She fought with her life on the line. Whenever her opponent left a wound on her body, she would immediately counterattack tenfold, not retreating at all. Using the might of the heavenly weapon, Lu Riyue was not at a disadvantage in terms of aura. Instead, the 8 martial saints of Biyun Peak became more and more fearful as they fought. Occasionally, someone would lose an arm or a large piece of flesh. A few strands of saber chi flew towards Xiao Qin and Lu Suifeng. Xiao Qin used his palm as a saber and executed drawing the saber. With a bang, the strands of saber chi were reduced to nothing. Lu Suifeng said anxiously, "Yi Qin, what should we do? If this goes on, even if Sis can obtain victory, she will be severely injured. The other side still has 10 martial grandmasters who have not made a move. We are not a match for them." "Don't rush me, I'm thinking of a way." Naturally, Xiao Qin was able to think of the problem that Lu Suifeng could think of. He looked at Song Qianhe, who was in the crowd, and thought very quickly. Song Qianhe looked coldly at Lu Riyue. He did not care much about the casualties in the battle. Aside from Zhao Gongming, the rest of these martial saints had been stuck at inferior grade martial saint for many years. This time Xiao Qin had brought them here to send them to their deaths. The true elites of Biyun Peak had not come. Even if they all died, he would not feel any heartache. Biyun Peak could afford to waste their resources, unlike Qingyun Peak, which only had Lu Riyue. As long as she fell, the others could be dealt with easily. Heaven rank spirit weapon? It looks like this operation is going to fail. Should I make a move? Song Ke looked at the battle below from the clouds. He frowned slightly. He could not make up his mind. In the battle, Lu Riyue took advantage of an inferior grade martial saint's opening and pierced the air with her lunar shadow saber. She stabbed the saber into this person's heart. Her right hand trembled, and a surging essence flowed along her arm and into the saber. Boom! With a loud bang, that person's body exploded into countless pieces, shattering into pieces. Blood sprayed out in the air like rain slowly falling down. Lu Ryue's decisiveness and cold-bloodedness caused the surrounding cultivators to tremble involuntarily. Although they were not afraid of death, when they saw such a cruel way of dying, they could not help but feel a deep fear in their hearts. This is too ruthless. She did not care at all, killing as she pleased. Is she really not afraid of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's rules? Everyone could not help but think this in their hearts. Taking advantage of the moment when everyone was distracted, Lu Ryue did not stop moving. She swept her saber horizontally and chopped an inferior-grade martial saint beside her in half. Lu Ryue, don't go overboard. Zhao Gongming shouted hoarsely. In an instant, 2 inferior-grade martial saints died miserably at Lu Ryue's hands. Lu Ryue's reply was an even more ferocious attack. She held her saber with both hands and her entire body was covered in blood. She was like a crazed demon, like an evil spirit that came out of hell. She did not care about the wounds on her body. Cassie. Chapter 165. Xiao Chen's eyes were bloodshot as he clenched his right fist tightly. His fingertips pierced deep into his flesh, causing blood to flow out. He could not remember the last time he was so angry. I hate it. To think that I had to let a girl risk her life to protect me. Xiao Chen felt his heart bleeding. Biyun Peak Song Qianhe, even if I have to face the boundless pursuit of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, I, Xiao Chen, swear to tear you into pieces. I will return today's humiliation tenfold in the future. 2 people fell in an instant. The situation immediately tilted in Lu Ryue's favor. The number of wounds on her body increased continuously, but she did not fall. Her face was already covered in blood. It was a horrifying sight. The remaining martial saints revealed fear in their hearts. They started to move very carefully, hoping to protect themselves. However, this caused them to die even faster. Lu Ryue did not care about the wounds on her body. She used her saber in exchange for a life. Pu Si. One of them left a long wound on Lu Ryue's body. Blood spurted out. Another martial saint chased after her. Lu Ryue did not care about her pursuers or the incoming attack. She stabbed her saber into the body of an inferior-grade martial saint. Her essence erupted and immediately shattered all the bones in his body. Xia. The attack of the person behind her left another wound on Lu Ryue's back. However, Lu Ryue did not seem to feel it. She grabbed the weapon of that person with her left hand and turned around, creating a strong wind. Under this person's horrified gaze, his head was directly chopped off. Soon, only Zhao Gongming was left standing in the field. The remaining 7 martial saints all fell to the ground. They died without a complete corpse. There was not a single complete corpse. Blood flowed all over the ground. The pungent smell of blood was nauseating. When Zhao Gongming saw the hellish scene in front of him, his right hand, which was holding his saber, could not help but tremble. He thought to himself, this Lu Ryue is too ruthless. She is ruthless to herself and even more ruthless to her enemies. Do I have to risk my life against her? I'm not like these old men. I still have a bright future ahead of me. I am already a medial-grade martial saint at the age of 30. My future is bright and I have great potential. Such a thought appeared in Zhao Gongming's mind. After a while, this thought spread like wildfire, getting out of hand. If she, Lu Ryue, wants to risk her life, why should I, Zhao Gongming, do the same? How foolish. Lu Ryue smiled coldly to herself. With one glance, she could tell that Zhao Gongming was afraid. She casually wiped the blood off her face. Xiao Chen grasped the saber hilt again. The blood in his hand flowed down the saber blade and dripped onto the ground. The black blade of the lunar shadow saber was dyed scarlet, making it look like a blood saber. It looked very strange. Kill. Lu Ryue shouted and an overwhelming killing chi pressed down on Zhao Gongming. Xiao Chen's figure turned into a blurry white figure in the air. The electric light on the lunar shadow saber crackled. It was boundlessly resplendent and dazzling. When Zhao Gongming saw Lu Ryue flying over, he clenched his teeth and sent out a saber light with his saber. Their figures changed rapidly in the air. At first, everyone could still see their figures, but in the end their speed became faster and faster. He could only see 2 white shadows swaying non-stop, and there was also the light of lightning blooming in the air. Metallic clangs rang out continuously as saber chi flew in all directions. The rocks that came into contact with the saber chi immediately shattered into countless pieces. The surroundings of the two turned into rubble in the blink of an eye. Bang! Suddenly, a figure descended from the sky. Xiao Chen's heart tightened. He quickly looked and discovered that it was Zhao Gongming. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Boom! Lu Ryue descended from the air and kicked Zhao Gongming's chest heavily. Zhao Gongming's injuries worsened. He tasted something sweet in his throat and vomited a large mouthful of blood. Zhao Gongming landed heavily on the ground with a bang. He looked at Lu Riyue, who was getting closer to him. His eyes were filled with horror. "Trash like you dares to laugh at my Qingyun peak for not having anyone?" Lu Riyue walked over to Zhao Gongming but did not make a move. A faint aura locked onto her in the sky. As long as she made a move, she would suffer a destructive blow. Lu Riyue looked at the clouds above her head and the corner of her lips curled up in a mocking smile. The setting sun was like blood. When it shone on her, she looked very miserable. "After hiding for so long, are you not embarrassed? Old fogey." Lu Riyue shouted and quickly drew the small saber at her waist. The saber spun quickly in her hand, creating an intense wind. A strong wind blew and kicked up a large amount of dust. Xiaochen could not help but close his eyes. "Kill?" The spinning saber left Xiaochen's hand and formed a berserk hurricane in the air. There was a sharp cold light in the hurricane. It whistled as it headed for the white clouds in the sky. Its aura was like a rainbow as it surged forward. The hurricane sped through the air and grew with the wind. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a hurricane that was dozens of meters wide. It was very horrifying. Boom! There was a loud sound in the sky. The hurricane crashed into the white clouds in the sky. A clump of white fog appeared on the horizon, attracting everyone's attention. They did not understand why Lu Riyue attacked the white clouds in the sky for no reason. When the clouds scattered and everyone saw the scene in the sky, they were all astonished. Song Ke stood quietly in the sky. He held Lu Riyue's small saber in his right hand. There was no change in his expression. He was incomparably calm. He was like an old man in meditation. As he stood in the sky, his aura was withdrawn. He was as calm as flowing water. However, there was a natural might coming from his body. It made everyone feel insignificant. "Little girl, are you bullying my Biyun sect because there is no one around?" Song Ke snorted coldly. His voice was not loud, but it reverberated in the ears of Lu Riyue and the others. It caused the qi and blood in their bodies to surge. It was clear that this voice contained a high-level secret technique. Bo. Right after Song Ke spoke, he flicked his finger. The small saber in his hand turned into a blur in the air. It gave off a bright light and broke through the air, creating a long shockwave as it headed for Lu Riyue. The small saber arrived in an instant. One breath ago it was far away. In the blink of an eye, it arrived before Lu Riyue. The force of the saber created a strong wind. The bloody dust on the ground was picked up by the strong wind and scattered in all directions. In an instant, the dust filled the entire space. This was the strength of a peak martial king. With a gentle flick of his finger, there was such a shocking aura. Everywhere the light passed, it could topple mountains and split rocks. Dang! A clear clanging sound came from the flying dust, and after the dust settled, the sound was heard. After the dust settled, everyone saw Lu Riyue holding her saber horizontally in front of her, blocking the small saber descending from the sky. Blood leaked from the corner of her mouth. It was clear that she suffered internal injuries. The small saber spun continuously on the back of the lunar shadow saber. Lu Riyue held the saber hilt tightly with her right hand and placed her left hand on the saber. Even so, Lu Riyue continued to move backward. Her footsteps rubbed against the ground, giving off a rustling sound. The situation was dire. If Lu Riyue could not hold on, the small saber would pierce through her chest. The small saber would pierce through Lu Riyue's chest. After that, she would definitely die. Xiaochen felt very anxious. However, at this moment he could only worry. There was nothing he could do. Lu Riyue was currently in a weak equilibrium. Although it was dangerous, her life was not in danger. If he helped, this equilibrium would be broken. Without the strength of a martial king, he would not be able to maintain this equilibrium. If he helped, he would only cause Lu Riyue to die even faster. Who? Just at this moment, a white dragon suddenly came out of Lu Riyue's body. The white dragon circled around Lu Riyue and roared at Song Ke in the sky. The dragon roared in all directions. It was vast and boundless. A huge might surged towards Song Quebec. Song Ke frowned slightly. His body paused in the air and moved slightly. The aura of the small saber immediately weakened. Lu Riyue took advantage of this opportunity and shouted. She swung her saber and flung away the small saber. Then she stretched out her hand and caught the small saber that was about to fall. No wonder this small saber was so strong. It turned out that Song Ke left a strand of his qi in it. Only by breaking this strand of qi could she break this move. A peak martial king, a peak master, actually made such a ruthless move against a junior. This is too shameless, Xiaochen cursed hatefully in his heart. The white dragon that suddenly appeared should be Lu Ryue's martial spirit. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would do such a thing. When Xiaoqun saw the white dragon return to Lu Ryue's body, he felt it was familiar. However, he could not remember where he had seen it before. When Song Ke saw that his move was broken, a trace of anger flashed on his face. Although he did not use his full strength in this move, it was still very strong. However, it was actually broken by a junior. Song Ke felt that he had lost face. He snorted coldly and his body descended from the sky with a boundless aura. He landed heavily on the ground, creating an intense shockwave that surged towards Lu Ryue. At this moment, Lu Ryue was already like an arrow at the end of its flight. How could she block the attack of a peak martial king? Her body was immediately knocked back by the shockwave. When Xiaoqun saw the situation, he quickly rushed forward and caught Lu Ryue. He took out a blood-replenishing pill and fed it to Lu Ryue without giving her any room to refuse. You are of my grandfather's generation, yet you dare to make a move against a junior. Don't you feel ashamed? Xiaoqun helped Lu Ryue up and glared at Song Quebec. Before Song Ke could say anything, Song Qianhe, who was hiding in the crowd behind him, said, "What kind of status does my father have? Is it up to someone like you, who is not even worth dog shit, to speak to him like that?" Xiaoqun looked at Song Qianhe and smiled coldly. After failing to propose, you resorted to despicable methods. You want to use a life-saving medicine to threaten others. For someone to have a son like you, it is easy to imagine what kind of person your father is. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Anyone can teach this kind of person a lesson. Song Ke's face turned red. He had tacitly agreed to all the things that Song Qianhe had done. Although he knew he was in the wrong, it was not up to a junior to speak to him like that. A surging killing chi, the aura of a peak martial king, surged towards Xiaoqun without any fear. Song Ke's ice-cold face revealed a murderous intent. "Ignorant junior, do you dare to say another word?" The azure dragon martial spirit circled around Xiaoqun's body continuously. The pressure on Xiaoqun's body immediately decreased. He looked straight at Song Ke without any fear as he said loudly, "You have no respect for your old age. You have no sense of shame. You have no sense of propriety, righteousness, or honor." Chapter 166. Xiaoqun was prepared to die when he said these words. A bona fide peak martial king would not even need to use a tenth of his strength to easily kill Xiaoqun. However, ambition was important. Wasn't a man living in this world for the sake of pride? Xiaoqun did not care about his status and used his strength to attack his master. Furthermore, Lu Yueru was already severely injured, yet he still dared to make a move. At this moment, if Xiaoqun did not say anything, he would not have any backbone. What kind of man would he be? He might as well die. Song Ke's face was covered in frost. Ever since he became the peak master, he could not remember how many years it had been since someone dared to scold him like this. Furthermore, it was an insignificant inferior grade martial grand master. What a sharp tongue. Are you not afraid of biting your tongue? Go to hell. The moment he spoke, Song Ke's body started to turn blurry. He floated towards Xiaoqun like flowing water. Everywhere he passed, it was like he was flowing through a river. The blood on the ground was actually swept clean. 3 flowing cloud images. Xiaoqun thought to himself, when Song Ke executed this 3 flowing cloud images, it was like moving clouds and flowing water. There was no hesitation at all. Everything was natural and natural. It was like a gushing river, not giving off any sense of danger. If this was one day ago, Xiaoqun would definitely not be able to block Song Ke's 3 flowing cloud images at its peak. However, when Xiaoqun was in the dense forest the previous day, he suddenly gained enlightenment and entered the state of perfection like water. His understanding of the 3 flowing cloud images reached a level that no one before could understand. Xiaoqun gently tossed Lu Ryue into Lu Suifeng's hands. His mind was calm as he did his best to recall the state he was in yesterday. At this moment, Song Ke did not seem to have any killing moves. However, Xiaoqun knew that if he did not enter the state he was in yesterday, he would immediately be killed by Song Quebec. At this critical moment of life and death, Xiaoqun instantly entered the state he was in yesterday. His entire being turned into a calm sea without any waves. From an outsider's perspective, both of their figures had become extremely blurry. One of them was like a gushing river, while the other was like a calm ocean without any ripples. Boom! The river and the ocean collided. A surging shockwave spread out in all directions, like countless splashes of water. Bang! 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 Water splashed in the air and emitted violent explosions. It was like a tempestuous storm, deafening, continuous, and majestic. Song Ke took 3 steps back. His heart was filled with shock. Perfection like water was a state that could only be grasped in legends. How could he possibly know it? The huge force flowed into Xiao Chen's body. In an instant, Xiao Chen felt like he was going to explode. He felt Song Song's energy. In his sea of consciousness, the calm surface of the ocean that he had transformed into immediately stirred up waves after waves after waves of energy spread outwards. After Xiao Chen transformed into a sea, Chen sea, the calm sea, there it Xiao Xiao who was in a Chen's body. Xiao the of the Xiao Chen. Chen. Of Chen of Chen's of a Chen. Of a Xiao. A Chen of Xiao of Chen of Chen. The group of people behind him could not understand either. A strange look flashed in Lu Ryua's eyes. There were many kinds of states. Listening to the sword and communicating with it was one of them. She, who had grasped the state of listening to the sword and communicating with it, could somewhat understand what was going on. If a person comprehended a certain state to its peak, they would have a huge advantage when fighting with someone else using the same martial technique. Lu Ryua had experienced this herself. Song Kei said coldly, "Perfection like water. I want to see how strong it is." Song Kei could not accept the pride of a peak martial king. He had practiced the 3 flowing cloud images for his entire life, yet he could not even compare to a junior. After Song Kei spoke, he turned into a gushing river, surging towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen frowned. He did not dare to be careless. He guarded his heart platform and materialized a boundless ocean. Perfection like water, water benefits all things but does not compete. Xiao Chen understood something in his heart. This 3 flowing cloud images was, in essence, a defensive and counterattacking martial technique. Forcefully materializing it into an offensive martial technique would only be putting the cart before the horse, neglecting the essentials. However, Song Kei did not care about this. He relied on his cultivation realm and continuously charged at Xiao Chen. There were loud sounds of raging waves. The surrounding air started to tremble. After the trembling, there was an unending chain of explosions. The surrounding crowd did not dare to get too close. They all retreated. Song Kei's raging waves kicked up huge waves one after another on the calm surface of the sea. The sound of the waves surged. It was incomparably terrifying. On the vast ocean, Xiao Chen was like a small boat drifting with the wind. He rose and fell with the waves. It looked like he would be swallowed up at any moment. However, after a while, this small boat did not get swallowed up. It continued to drift along with the waves, tossing and turning. Pooh! Song Kei retreated once again. He had already charged at Xiao Chen more than 100 times. Every time he used a huge force, it seemed like he was just a little short of exploding Xiao Chen. However, he did not succeed every time. This time he completely lost his patience. His eyes revealed an extremely impatient expression. He waved his right hand and a thick saber flickering with a cold light appeared in his hand. Killing chi spread out. Song Kei had never wanted to kill a person as much as he did now. Furthermore, it was an inferior grade martial grandmaster that he would not even bother to look at normally. Mountain-splitting chop. Break for me. Song Kei shouted loudly. The light on his saber was withdrawn. There was nothing fancy about it. However, it carried an aura that could split mountains. He hacked at Xiao Chen and instantly broke through the formless ocean that Xiao Chen had turned into. Not good. Yi Chen is in danger. Seeing Song Kei give up on using the 3 flowing cloud images, Lu Ryue cried out in alarm. She wanted to go forward and help, but when she circulated the essence in her body, she could not help but vomit a mouthful of blood. She staggered and was about to fall backwards. Lu Suifeng quickly supported her. Lu Ryue's blood-covered face revealed an expression of extreme dissatisfaction. Her eyes were bloodshot as she looked at Song Kei angrily. Finally, it seemed like she had made up her mind about something. She grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly with her right hand. Xiao Chen opened his eyes ferociously and shot out a bright light. He looked at Song Kei who was moving at lightning speed, and that saber strike that could split mountains. Xiao Chen understood in his heart that he would not be able to block this saber strike. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It would be like an ant trying to shake a tree. He would be chopped in half and die without a complete corpse. However, Xiao Chen did not intend to block it himself. He flicked his finger and the Eastern Emperor bell appeared from nowhere. It hovered above Xiao Chen's head. After a while, it turned into a huge bronze bell. For some unknown reason he could no longer use the mysterious yellow qi in the Eastern Emperor bell. Xiao Chen decisively used the bronze bell to cover himself. With a thought, the Eastern Emperor bell immediately fell to the ground with a loud boom, covering Xiao Chen completely. Song Kei smiled coldly in his heart. His hands did not stop moving at all. You want to block a full-body strike with just a damaged secret treasure? Too naive. Boom. The full-powered strike of a peak martial king struck the Eastern Emperor bell violently. The Eastern Emperor bell gave off a melodious chime. The sound waves reverberated in the air. After that, before everyone's astonished gazes, the Biyun Peak's peak master, a peak martial king, was knocked back like a cannonball. Song Ke felt his chi and blood surging, and he felt a sweetness in his throat as if he was about to vomit blood. Song Ke quickly circulated his essence in the air, suppressing the blood. If he was forced to vomit blood by an inferior grade martial grandmaster in front of a group of juniors, Song Ke might even have the thought of dying. However, Song Ke did not expect that his body was currently in the air. As he flew back rapidly, if he could not control his center of gravity, he might end up rolling on the ground. By the time he suppressed the chi and blood in his body and recovered his wits, it was already too late to change his center of gravity. There was a loud bang as he landed head first and rolled on the ground. After rolling 2 rounds, Song Ke stood up again. Song Ke's face was ashen. He was suffering in his heart. He was sent rolling on the ground by an inferior grade martial master. This was even more embarrassing than vomiting blood. His desire to kill Xiaochen was much stronger than before. There had never been such a person that gave Song Ke such a headache. In his life he had killed countless martial saints and martial kings. He had fought in many tough battles. However, he had never been in such a sorry state before. He had already forgotten his purpose in coming here. He only wanted to tear Xiaochen into pieces, to resolve the hatred in his heart. Seeing Xiaochen hiding in the Eastern Emperor bell, Song Ke did his best to calm himself down and think carefully. Although the rebound of this secret treasure is strong, it is still within the limits of my control. Furthermore, this secret treasure is definitely a damaged secret treasure. As long as I focus my energy on one point and attack continuously, I will definitely be able to break this secret treasure. I can definitely break this secret treasure. After Song Ke made up his mind, he immediately leaped up and hacked at the Eastern Emperor bell. A huge rebound came. This time Song Ke was prepared. He quickly spun in the air and after a while, the rebound dissipated into nothingness. Song Ke's figure flashed and he flew back to the Eastern Emperor bell. He hacked at the same spot as before. He did this repeatedly. In the blink of an eye, Song Ke hacked at least 100 times. The sound of the bell reverberated unceasingly, spreading throughout the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion like a sponge. When the many inner disciples of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion heard this sound, they all felt it was strange. They all curiously rushed over to the source of the sound. Xiaochen, who was hiding in the Eastern Emperor bell, also felt extremely uncomfortable. That drawn-out bell chime nearly ruptured his eardrums. His internal organs were churning non-stop. He wanted to vomit, but he could not vomit anything. After hacking at the Eastern Emperor bell for a few hundred times, a small crack finally appeared on it. Song Ke's face lit up with joy and he suddenly leaped up. In the blink of an eye, he was more than 1,000 meters above the ground. He wanted to deal the final blow, to completely destroy this damn bell and pull Xiaochen out and hack him into pieces. The bell suddenly stopped ringing. Xiaochen felt it was strange. He used his spiritual sense to observe carefully and he instantly saw the crack on the bell. He could not help but feel some lingering fear. If this Eastern Emperor bell was really broken with his true strength, he would not even be able to block a single move from Song Quebec. Never mind, since I am going to die anyway, why don't I give it my all? A resolute look flashed in Xiaochen's eyes as he watched Song Ke descend from the sky. Chapter 167. Suddenly the Eastern Emperor bell soared into the air. Xiaochen stretched out his right hand and grabbed the bottom of the Eastern Emperor bell. He shouted and swept it at Song Ke, who was charging at him. Song Ke was horrified. He had been attacking the Eastern Emperor bell all this time. However, when he saw that Xiaochen did not react, he was already out of habit. Song Ke was thinking that he only needed one more attack to get Xiaochen out. Xiaochen had not expected Xiaochen to charge at him with the bell in hand. Xiaochen's rapidly descending body trembled. Before Xiaochen could react, Xiaochen sent him flying with a bang. The huge recoil caused Song Ke to fly back like he was swatting a fly. He vomited a mouthful of blood in the air and landed on the ground. Many of the inner disciples who had rushed over after hearing the bell had just stabilized themselves when they saw this inconceivable scene. An inferior grade martial grandmaster had sent a peak martial king flying back while vomiting blood. No one could figure out what was going on. This mouthful of blood was actually the chi and blood that Song Ke had been suppressing. From the first strike, Song Ke had not dissipated the recoil from the Eastern Emperor bell. He had only used his cultivation realm to suppress it. He had struck the Eastern Emperor bell for close to 1,000 times. The suppressed energy in his body had already reached a horrifying level. If he continued suppressing it for a long time, it would cause hidden injuries to his body. Hence, when Song Ke vomited this mouthful of blood, his body actually felt very refreshed. However, even though his body felt refreshed, his heart felt even more upset. Song Ke looked at the crowd that was still rushing over. He felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. He thought to himself that he had completely lost all his face today. A peak master was actually forced into such a sorry state by a junior. This joke was getting out of hand. As the saying goes, break a crutch and break a fall. Song Ke's emotions had completely calmed down. Since it had already come to this, as long as he could kill this person, there was no need to care about morality. When Song Ke saw Xiaoqin charging over with the bell, he knew the strangeness of the Eastern Emperor bell. He had already lost all his face, so he did not mind losing some more face. He did not choose to clash head-on. Relying on his advantage in speed, he quickly dodged Xiaoqin's attack. Then everyone saw an incredible scene. An inferior grade martial grand master used a damaged secret treasure to crush a peak martial king, forcing him to flee. It was a very impressive sight. Seeing the crowd pointing at him, Song Ke remained expressionless. He looked coldly at Xiaoqin and easily dodged Xiaoqin's attack. Xiaoqin also knew what Song Ke was thinking. He was waiting for Xiaoqin to exhaust his essence qi before dealing a fatal blow. In any case, he had already thrown caution to the wind. Xiaoqin also knew what the outcome would be. He held the Eastern Emperor bell and smiled as he chased. Song Ke, your father really knows how to name you. He knows that you lack morals, heart, and calcium, so he gave you some. Why are you running? You are a bona fide peak master. You do not even dare to have a proper battle with me, an insignificant inferior grade martial grand master? Weren't you quite awe-inspiring just now? Why are you acting like a tortoise now? How long are you going to hide? I'll bear with it. Let's see how long you can shout for. Song Ke felt sullen in his heart. However, he did not fall for Xiaoqin's trick. If he attacked now, Xiaoqin would place the Eastern Emperor bell on his head. He could only think of another way to break the Eastern Emperor bell. At that time, the gains would not make up for the losses. Instead, it would be a waste of time. Xiaoqin might as well let him be pleased for now. When his essence ran out, Xiaoqin would torture him and make him kneel and beg for mercy, living a life worse than death. Who is this brat? How can he be so arrogant? To think he dares to speak to Song Ke like that. This brat seems to be Lu Ryue's new disciple. He is called Yiqin. He is only an inferior grade martial grand master. Lu Ryue is already arrogant enough. I did not expect this brat to be even more arrogant than her. Indeed, the disciple is like the master. These Heavenly Saber Pavilion inner disciples had good judgment. Naturally, they would not be foolish enough to think that Xiaoqin could defeat a martial king and force Song Ke to flee. There had to be a reason for this that they did not know. Furthermore, Song Ke dodged very easily. He did not panic at all. Even so, everyone was filled with admiration for Xiaoqin's courage. If this brat survives today, his name will definitely shake the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It seems like the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has not had such a bustling event in a long time. Indeed, a disciple who just entered the sect a few months ago actually dares to challenge a peak master. In the history of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, this is unprecedented and will not happen again. Although the Eastern Emperor bell was damaged, it was still one of the peak secret treasures of the human race. As Xiaoqin controlled the Eastern Emperor bell, his essence was depleting very quickly. The river in his dantian was slowly drying up. Xiaoqin thought to himself, I can't continue playing around. I have to run. Although it would be difficult to escape with the strength of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Xiaoqin still had to give it a try. He could not just sit there and wait for death. Just as Xiaoqin was preparing to use the Eastern Emperor bell to open a path and leave this place, the Eastern Emperor bell in his hand suddenly trembled. It turned into a small, exquisite bell and landed in Xiaoqin's hand. Xiaoqin hated that he could not trample on this Eastern Emperor bell until it smashed to smithereens. This was not the first time the Eastern Emperor bell had failed. Every time it happened, it was at a crucial moment. Every time it happened, it was a life-threatening moment. When Song Ke saw the Eastern Emperor bell suddenly disappear, he was stunned. He thought that Xiaoqin was playing a trick on him. When he saw Xiaoqin quickly flee, he came to his senses. He had finally endured to the end. Song Ke could not help but laugh loudly. Little bastard, let's see where you can run to. Xiaoqin executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. His figure was like a rushing flood dragon flying on flat ground. Unfortunately, the difference in cultivation realm was too great. Even with a heaven-ranked cultivation technique, his speed could not compare to a peak martial king. A white light flashed and Song Qianhe appeared behind Xiaoqin. He sent out a kick. This kick tore through the air and gave off an intense sonic boom. It landed heavily on Xiaoqin's back. Xiaoqin vomited a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. His body slid forward continuously. Song Ke had actually controlled his strength in this kick. He did not want Xiaoqin to die so quickly. Otherwise, the force of this kick would have shattered all of Xiaoqin's internal organs. Why don't you run? Run for me. The rage that Song Ke had endured for a long time was finally revealed at this moment. He revealed a gloomy expression as he walked unhurriedly towards Xiaoqin. In his eyes, Xiaoqin, who had lost the Eastern Emperor Bell, was like an ant. He could play with him however he wanted, but he could not go overboard. If he was not careful, the ant would be squashed to death. When Song Ke thought of this, he could not help but laugh loudly. It was like he was possessed. He was in a state of madness. However, just at this moment, Lu Ryue, who was holding the lunar shadow saber in the distance, finally completed a certain ritual. Her already extremely weak body became even more unbearable. After the ritual was completed, the lunar shadow saber in her hand glowed brightly like a miniature sun. It quickly flew towards Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin, who was on the ground, stretched out his hand naturally and grabbed the saber's hilt. The light on the saber instantly disappeared and it became ordinary again. When Song Ke, who was originally startled, saw this, he calmed down. "Trashy master, long time no see. You are still as trashy as ever." Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out in Xiaoqin's heart. Xiaoqin became excited and forgot about the pain in his body. He exclaimed, "Ao Jiao, is that you? Is that you? Is that you? Is that you?" Xiaoqin asked no 3 times in a row. It was clear how excited he was in his heart. That familiar voice rang out again. "It has only been such a short time and you can't even recognize my voice. You really make me sad. Furthermore, the one who woke me up was actually a young lady. I thought I would see you the moment I woke up." The familiar voice rang out again. Without a doubt, Xiaoqin was pleasantly surprised. However, when he heard Ao Jiao's words, he could not help but feel confused. "Why did you seal yourself back then? Do you know that I—" Before Xiaoqin could finish speaking, Ao Jiao interrupted him. "Don't you want a subdivine weapon? I won't explain it to you. I don't have much time left. Let's deal with this old man first. I'll borrow your body for a while. Don't resist." The moment Ao Jiao spoke, Xiaoqin felt a strong mental energy enter his mind. Knowing that this was Ao Jiao, Xiaoqin did not resist and handed over control of his body. Slowly, Xiaoqin felt a strange state. His thoughts were very clear and he could see the outside clearly. However, he could not make any movements. When Song Ke saw that Xiaoqin was slowly getting up, he laughed coldly in his heart. Then he sent a kick at Xiaoqin. Another intense sonic boom resounded in the air. Xiaoqin revealed a gentle smile on his face. No, it should be Ao Jiao's smile now. It was somewhat strange for a man to have such a smile. Ao Jiao stretched her body and used her left hand to block Song Ke's kick, which was faster than the speed of sound. Then she casually pulled back and lifted Song Ke's body into the air. What's going on? Song Ke was incomparably terrified. Xiaoqin actually blocked his attack. Not only did he block it, but he also lifted him up. This was too unreasonable. Song Ke calmed down and took a deep breath. His upper body was in the air and he did a difficult sit-up. Then he swung the saber in his hand at Xiaoqin's head. Ao Jiao's palm struck Song Ke's wrist. Song Ke felt his arm go numb and the saber fell to the ground. Ao Jiao's right hand slapped Song Ke, who was in midair. The strength of this slap was so great that Song Ke's body was immediately slapped back, and there were 5 clear handprints on the right side of his face. This slap was incredibly resounding. Not only did it knock out all the surrounding Heavenly Saber Pavilion inner disciples, but it also knocked them unconscious. Song Ke was completely fooled by the slap. What's going on? Didn't I endure for so long because I was waiting for this brat to exhaust his primordial chi so that I could torture him to death? Why is it that I just had a kick and the situation changed again? He is just an inferior grade martial grand master, yet he lifted me up and even slapped me. I am a peak martial king, this is impossible.